Chapter 46. Dongbui Shui Ying's expression changed. He had the upper hand, but this monster-like man was still so confident. This was not normal. Young spear master. Your strength is actually slightly stronger than mine. It will not be easy to kill you. The monster-like man laughed. Jing Qiu, Lu Huairu and Si Bairong, who were hiding in the corner of the hall, were secretly shocked as they looked at the two powerful existences in front of them. They were all shocked. From the battle just now, they could see that Dongbui Shui Ying actually had the upper hand. In fact, this was very normal. Dongbui Shui Ying's strength was slightly stronger than his opponent's, and his opponent had the heaven and earth suppression. However, Dongbui Shui Ying had the transcendent dark eye spear technique and the godly weapon Feishu, a divine spear. Coupled with the strength of a spear master, he could completely suppress his opponent. His opponent also had many areas that were extremely strong, but ultimately, his strength was not as strong as one. This flaw put him at a disadvantage. If you have any techniques, show me. Dongbui Shui Ying shouted coldly. He felt that his opponent was very strange. I barely escaped back to the mortal world. After resting for a few days, I have only recovered half of my injuries. However, for you, it is worth it for me to use the forbidden technique that the great demon god taught me. The moment the monster-like man finished speaking, his body started to shrink rapidly. From his previous height of 2.45 meters, he had shrunk to about 1.8 meters. His waist, which was as thick as a water tank, and his arms, which were thicker than an ordinary person's thighs, were also shrinking rapidly. All his blood, flesh, tendons, and bones turned into terrifying energy in an instant, forming a strange black airflow. The black airflow surrounded the surface of his body. After shrinking, this god's emissary's body became a strong man who was 1.8 meters tall. How is this possible? Si Bairong's eyes widened. The great demon god's forbidden technique. Lu Huairu's eyes shone brightly. Amazing, as expected of a demon god. His research on the physical body has already surpassed most of the mages. Jing Qiu, on the other hand, gasped in surprise. Mages would usually research the physical body and the soul, and even create some monsters. For example, the Si clan's ancestor, Si Lianghong, had transformed her own physical body into a blood demon's body, which allowed her to obtain a long lifespan. Ka. The god emissary slightly moved his neck, emitting a terrifying sound. Black gas twined around him like a demon. This is true power. The god messenger stared at Dongbui Shui Ying. If it wasn't for power, I wouldn't have followed the demonic god. Young spear master, feel my current strength. Interesting. Dongbui Shui Ying, on the other hand, was staring intently at the black air around his opponent's body. So much blood, flesh, and bones were instantly turned into energy to augment his body? As expected of a forbidden technique taught by the gods. If I'm not wrong, this is your true appearance. That's right. To learn this forbidden technique, you need to eat. Eat a lot and turn it into flesh, blood, and bones to hide in your body. Lord Oracle said casually. How many normal humans can be that strong? Dongbui Shui Ying nodded his head. He also felt that this was not normal. Even if there were some rare individuals that could grow to a height of 2. For him, most of them would be thin and tall. As for the tall and strong, Dongbui Shui Ying had never seen such a monster in the Azure River County when he was riding on his snowstrider horse. Is it over? Jing Qiu was worried. They're simply crazy. Two crazy people. Bairong said fearfully. Lord Oracle will definitely win. Lu Huairu said confidently. At this moment, the black gas was twining around his body, making him look like a demon. The aura he emitted was enough to make them tremble in fear. Very good, very good. Dongbui Shui Ying suddenly said. I was still thinking that your strength was too weak. You were completely suppressed by me. There was no challenge at all. Now it's interesting. This is the first time I, Dongbui Shui Ying, fight against a legend ranker. It should be more exciting. Otherwise, if I kill you so easily, it won't be fun. In a while, you won't be able to be so arrogant anymore. The oracle snorted. In an instant, he dashed out with a speed much faster than before. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy was suppressing Dongbui Shui Ying. Since the heaven and earth energy was unable to affect the spear master, then he would continue suppressing him. This way he could at least weaken his opponent's strength. Is that so? Dongbui Shui Ying dashed forward and hacked down with both his hands. The demonic emissary's body suddenly stopped, and he took a strange step back. With a ping sound, Shui Ying's spear struck the ground, causing the floor of the great hall to split open, and countless pieces of rubble flew in all directions. The flying rubble was blocked when it came into contact with the black airflow on the oracle's body. The oracle sneered. His current strength had completely increased. His strength and speed had all increased. That was why he didn't even need to use his axe to dodge this attack. However, the spear that had suddenly struck the ground borrowed the rebound force and instantly bounced upwards, thrusting forward at an even faster and fiercer speed. So fast. The oracle was shocked. This spear master's attacks were too fast. Even the rebound force between each attack was perfectly borrowed, allowing him to display even more terrifying strength. Damn. The oracle blocked with his axe. The tip of the spear and the axe collided. Dongbu Shui Ying's body trembled. The spear in his hand immediately turned and transformed into countless spear shadows that enveloped the oracle. Black-eye spear arts, floating snow. Countless snowflakes fluttered, and within the snowflakes, there were even some ice-cold spear tips. Such a fast spear technique. The oracle blocked with his axe. Faster, faster, faster. No matter how fast I go, it's still too slow. Dongbu Shui Ying's eyes were burning with a terrifying fighting intent. His spear shadows covered the sky and enveloped his opponent. The countless spear shadows were too fast. In a split second they stabbed towards his opponent's head, throat, right leg, wrist. Different parts of his body were being attacked crazily, causing the oracle to be unable to do anything but defend. Too fast. This Dongbu Shuiying is too fast. His spear shadows are so fast that I can't even see them clearly. Is this his true strength? He can practically kill me in one move. Bai Rong was stunned. Jingqiu was also holding her breath. As a Silver Moon mage, she had always been proud of being a mage. But today she had finally witnessed a battle between two peak legend rankers. In front of such strength, what could a Silver Moon mage do? Even a legend ranker would have to prepare some spells. If they were suddenly ambushed, they would probably die. So fast. Everyone present felt that Dongbu Shui Ying's spear techniques were extremely fast. How could spear techniques be so fast? The spear techniques that Dongbu Shuiying had learnt were known for their speed. When the strength of a peak legend ranker, the godly weapon Feishui godly spear, the spear master, and the black-eye spear arts were all combined, how fast would it be? This was the current scene. Ah! Damn it! Get lost. The oracle, who had been constantly being attacked, was finally enraged. He displayed his movement technique and crazily waved his axe, releasing all of his strength. Ping! The tip of the spear and the axe collided. Dongbu Shuiying's Feishui godly spear had been shaken to the point of being bent. However, the spear itself had the ability to store energy. Dongbu Shuiying immediately turned his body sideways and borrowed the energy from the bent spear to attack the oracle ferociously. Die for me. Die. Die. Die for me. The oracle continued to attack crazily. His pair of huge axes were incomparably ferocious. At this moment his body was much smaller than before. His two axes were like two huge shields. It was not easy for Dongbu Shuiying to attack his opponent. Ping, ping, ping. Every time they exchanged blows, Dongbu Shuiying would be forced to change his technique. Sometimes he would be forced to retreat and sometimes he would turn his body sideways to attack. Although he was being suppressed, Dongbu Shuiying was still able to counterattack time and time again. Blood Axe, World Extermination. The oracle roared. The black aura around his body was wrapped around his blood axe. Not good. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. Before his spear could even touch the axe, the moment it came into contact with the black aura, it felt extremely slippery and tough. The area of effect of the blood axe had increased, and its power had increased significantly. Hoo! The blood axe swept horizontally, and the area of effect of the black aura increased. Peng! Shuiying was jolted to the point that he staggered backwards. Die for me! The oracle dashed out. His speed was much faster than Dongbu Shuiying. The axe in his hand cleaved downwards. The might of this strike was much stronger than before. Dongbu Shuiying did not dare to block it head-on. He immediately dodged to the side. Boom! The ground was cleaved down by the axe and a 20 to 30 meter crack appeared. Slash slash slash. The oracle was obviously intending to eliminate his opponent in one go. After all, the power of this forbidden technique was limited. Currently he was even more extravagant on his weapon. Although his strength had increased greatly, he was also expending more energy. Hence, he had to eliminate Dongbu Shuiying as soon as possible. Clang clang clang. Dongbu Shuiying's movement speed could not match up to his opponent's. He could only use his spear to block the incoming force. Alas, his opponent was too strong. Ping. With a burst of speed, Dongbo Shuiying slammed into the wall behind him, causing cracks to appear on the wall. Dongbo Shuiying dodged to the side. He won't die, right? Jing Qiu's heart tightened. Even Bai Rong was getting anxious. Sir Oracle will definitely win. Lu Huairu watched from afar. Because the 3 gates of the main hall had been closed, there was no way for him to escape. Hence he hoped that the Oracle would win. The Oracle unleashed one attack after another, and Dongbo Shuiying was getting more and more battered. Who? Dongbo Shuiying rolled on the ground in an unsightly manner before he managed to dodge the attack. The gap is too big. I'm completely being oppressed. Looks like I'll have to use my bloodline of power. Shuiying flew away with a so sound. While he was in midair, a faint blood-red aura had already appeared around his body. At this moment, the bloodline power of a powerful primordial era life form was activated, and the killing intent in his eyes became bitingly cold. Chapter 47. Haha, die for me. The Oracle, who had the absolute advantage, did not give Dongbo Shuiying any chance to catch his breath. He rushed forward and swung his axes horizontally. Dongbo Shuiying, who was in midair, suddenly twisted his body and thrust his spear forward like a venomous snake. Shio. A one-handed stab. The spear was extremely fast, and it reached the Oracle's face almost instantaneously. So ruthless, so fast. The Oracle, who was chasing after Dongbo Shuiying, was shocked by the incoming spear. Why is his spear art so fast? It wasn't this fast before. He did not care about anything else and instinctively closed the axes in his hands. It was as if 2 huge doors had been closed, completely sealing off the spear's attack. Ping. The tip of the spear collided with the axis. Although this one-handed stab was fast and sudden, it was not as powerful as a whip, sweep, and hack. But it still caused the Oracle to feel his axis tremble. You should be the one to die. The moment Dongbo Shuiying landed on the ground, he immediately rushed towards the Oracle again. Snowflakes fluttered in the air, and his spear turned into a mirage as he attacked. Clang, clang, clang. In an instant hundreds of spear shadows enveloped the Oracle, but it was even faster than before. The demonic emissary was stunned. He was instinctively defending himself in a panic. He didn't even dare to attack because Shuiying's spear technique was so fast that the demonic emissary felt that if he were to attack, he wouldn't be able to defend against it. How could the speed of his spear technique increase so much? Could it be that he was hiding his strength earlier? Damn it, how could such a young junior be so strong? After stabbing a few hundred times, the spear spun and swung towards the Oracle's head. The Oracle hurriedly used his axes to block the attack. In an instant, a peng sound could be heard. The Oracle could feel a surge of energy being transmitted through the axes, and he could not help but stagger backwards. Peng ping peng. Dongbo Shuiying was either whipping, stabbing, or sweeping. The long spear was like a swimming dragon that was connected to him, crazily and extremely fast attacking again and again. The Oracle kept retreating, and even his movements were slightly distorted. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Oh. The sound of the air being torn rang in his ears, and the tip of a spear instantly pierced through the gap between the 2 blood axes. Puchi. The divine envoy's eyes widened, and the blood axe in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. The sound resounded throughout the hall. Phew. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly pulled out his spear. There was a huge hole in the Oracle's throat, and blood was gushing out of it. The Oracle was clutching his throat with his hand, and his eyes were wide open. He looked at the black-robed young man who was emitting a terrifying aura in front of him. He used to be a guard of a big family and he climbed up step by step. He was known for his ferocity, and was even given the title of Blood Axe Knight. For power he would do anything. In order to obtain a high-grade dochi method, he had slaughtered a team led by a young master of a large family and tortured and interrogated them to obtain a detailed dochi method. In order to obtain the divine weapon Blood Axe, he had slaughtered an innocent family. After being sent to the infernal realm to serve his sentence, he was found by the devil god's people. The other party promised to help him escape and even gave him a forbidden technique. Finally, he gritted his teeth and chose to betray the Xia people. He pledged allegiance to the devil god, and became a devil god's messenger. After narrowly escaping to the mortal world, he had only recovered half of his injuries, but he actually died in the hands of an unknown young spear master. You. The Oracle stared at Dongbo Shuiying. Suddenly, he realized that the faint blood-red aura was surrounding the black-robed young man. Taigu. He widened his eyes, but his vision was already turning black. Even when he spoke, blood was gushing out of his mouth. The oracle's eyes widened as he stared at Dongbo Shuiying. I submit. Remember, my name is Blood. Following which, his body twitched and his knees went weak as he knelt on the ground. Then he fell to the ground with a thud and fresh blood slowly flowed on the ground. An ambitious and ruthless person, to the mortals he was like a devil. The Blood Axe Knight Cho Fan died just like that. The other people present did not even know his name. Even the protector of the subaltar Lu Huairu did not know the true origin of this oracle. The main reason was that after this Blood Axe Knight escaped from the infernal realm, the Xia people had been chasing after him. Therefore he did not dare to reveal his identity. The only person who recognized Cho Fan was the 160 years old Tang Xiong. Unfortunately, Tang Xiong was already dead. As for Dongbo Shuiying, Jing Qiu and Si Bairong, they did not recognize him. After all, he was an extremely powerful person from a long time ago. You are called Blood? Dongbo Shuiying did not hear clearly. He shook his head slightly as he looked at the corpse of the oracle. No matter who you are the first legend ranker I have ever fought against. I will remember you. As he spoke, Dongbo Shuiying quickly took the 2 rings from the oracle. These 2 rings were storage treasures, and were easily refined by his Do Qi. What a huge space. Dongbo Shuiying was surprised. The 2 rings were very spacious. One was 3 meters long and the other was about the same size. This was considered huge among storage treasures. The reason why Dongbo Shuiying had disassembled the Feishui godly spear was because he did not have a storage treasure that was big enough. After all, disassembling the godly spear required a lot of time. Now, there is no need to disassemble it. I can use it at any time. Also, I can carry a few more spears with me. Dongbo Shuiying revealed a smile. This was something that made him happy. Immediately he checked the items inside the 2 rings. Gold notes, darts, shields, axes, bottles, food, wine. There were quite a lot of items. After all, the 3 meters long, wide and tall ring was like a mobile warehouse. The entire hall was silent. Jing Qiu and Si Bairong, who were hiding behind a pillar in the corner, held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold in front of them. Amidst the falling snow, the terrifying demonic emissary was pierced through the throat by a long spear. Dongbo Shuiying stood at the side and pulled out his spear. Dongbo Shuiying actually won? Si Bairong held his breath. Actually, when the oracle used his forbidden technique and Dongbo Shuiying activated his bloodline power, he could no longer understand the battle between the 2. It was too fast. Before reaching legend rank, in front of a legend rank, one was just an ant. A legend ranker. Only a legend ranker would be able to walk their own path. Some of them were even comparable to transcendence. So strong. This Dongbo Shuiying is too strong. He is only 22 years old? Jing Qiu was also shocked. She had seen many young geniuses in the Eternal Wind Academy. She herself was also praised as a proud daughter of heaven. However, she discovered that this Dongbo Shuiying was the most outstanding genius she had ever seen. A 22-year-old legend ranker. Moreover, he had just killed another powerful titled warrior in a head-on confrontation. Jing Qiu also felt admiration for him. In fact, she was also grateful because Dongbo Shuiying had saved her life. Sir Oracle, the great oracle was defeated? Dead. Lu Huairu, who was hiding far away, was stunned. He looked at the corpse of the oracle lying on the ground and felt his heart turn cold. The 3 gates of the great hall had already been closed. In order to prevent the intruders from escaping, the great hall had been completely sealed off. It would take too long to open the gates again. These experts from the Dragon Mountain Manor, especially that Dongbo Shuiying, could probably kill him in an instant. It's over. Lu Huairu had never thought of begging for mercy. As the altar lord of a demon god in Azure River County, with his identity, no one would dare to let him go. Damn it, damn the Dragon Mountain Manor. Lu Huairu glanced at the 3 people outside with hatred. In his hand, a strange disc appeared. He let out a crazed and piercing laughter. His laughter resounded in the great hall. Ah, let's perish together. Great demon god, here I come. At the same time, he suddenly spun the disc in his hand. Chapter 48. To be able to become an altar master, one had to be a fanatic. Furthermore, the reason why the demonic gods were able to infiltrate the entire Xia clan for so many years without being completely eradicated was because they had many powerful methods, such as oaths made by the demonic gods, time-space contracts, and so on, all sorts of methods to completely control the core elites of the believers. When they were alive, they would obey the demonic god completely. Even in death, their souls would be sent to the demonic god and follow him forever. Not good. Dongbo Shui Ying's face changed as he looked at Lu Huairu. Lu Huairu's face was filled with madness. Boom! The floor of the huge hall suddenly surged and then completely exploded. The pillars in the hall also collapsed one by one, and some even exploded from the impact. Jing Qiu and Si Bairong, who were hiding in the corner of the hall, were shocked. Congeal, congeal, congeal. Jing Qiu didn't have the time to cast any powerful spells, so she could only cast some weak ones. The ice armor on her body was already the strongest defense she could cast, and it could even withstand a Silver Moon Knight's attack for a while. At this moment, as Jing Qiu cast her spell, a sheet of ice appeared in front of her. The surface of the ice was slanted, and Jing Qiu hid behind the slanted surface of the ice. Obviously, she wanted to use the ice to disperse the terrifying force of the attack. But at this moment, the entire hall exploded, causing Jing Qiu to tremble in fear. Would she be able to withstand it? No, I can't die, I can't die. Bairong's eyes were also filled with fear. In an instant, he also squatted down and hid behind the slanted ice surface. When he saw Jing Qiu, who was completely covered by the ice armor, his eyes flashed with a cold light. In an instant, he grabbed Jing Qiu's arm and pulled her in front of him. A Silver Moon Mage's defense was also able to disperse a lot of force. Si Bairong. Jing Qiu's eyes were filled with anger. Jing Qiu, sacrifice yourself for me. I will take good care of your Yu family. Si Bairong hid behind Jing Qiu, using her as a shield. The ice armor had the ability to disperse force automatically. Otherwise, if a knight's attack passed through the ice armor, it would be enough to kill a mage. Because of the ice armor's ability to disperse force, Si Bairong used Jing Qiu as the best shield. With Jing Qiu in front of him, his chances of survival were greatly increased. As for Jing Qiu's life and death, he couldn't be bothered. Although he had always been pursuing Jing Qiu, it was only because of Jing Qiu's strength and appearance. But in the face of death, he naturally valued his own life more. He hadn't lived enough yet. Damn it, Bairong. Jing Qiu was both shocked and angry. She had been squatting at the bottom of the icy surface with her arms in front of her, but now that she was being grabbed, it was hard for her to protect herself with her arms. The chances of her dying had greatly increased. She was furious. However, how could a mage break free? The strength of a Silver Moon Knight was too great. If he did not die in the hands of that terrifying oracle, it would be too unjust to die because of Si Bairong. Not good. Dongbo Shuiying instantly felt the earth trembling and exploding. With a thought, a black square shield appeared in his left hand. This was one of the two storage rings of the God Messenger. A spear in his right hand and a shield in his left. So, Dongbo Shuiying's speed was as fast as lightning as he dashed away. At this moment he had already activated his bloodline power. A faint blood-red aura surrounded his body, and his speed had reached a frightening level. As he dashed away, the ground of the main hall had already exploded, and a large number of rocks were sent flying. The rocks were big and small, but they were all extremely fast and powerful. Dang dang dang. The shield in his left hand continuously blocked some of the rocks, while the spear in Feishua's left hand continuously whipped out at some of the rocks, walls, and even huge pillars. In the midst of the explosion, in a split second, Dongbo Shuiying had already reached Jing Qiu and Si Bairong, who were hiding behind the icy surface 100 meters away. Although he had a shield in one hand and a spear in the other, his body was still hit by some of the rocks. After all, the explosive power of the explosion was everywhere. In order to rush over as fast as possible, he could only use his body to withstand some of the rocks. However, as a peak legend ranker, with his bloodline power and his Do Chi protecting his body, even if his body were to withstand the impact of the explosion, he would at most be heavily injured. Only a few of the rocks managed to break through his Do Chi, and even his sturdy clothes were pierced through. However, in the end, Dongbo Shuiying's body was still stronger. His body easily withstood the impact of the rocks. The Si Bairong. Dongbo Shuiying rushed over and saw Si Bairong using Jing Qiu as a shield. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Shameless. Scram. Dongbo Shuiying grabbed Jing Qiu with one hand and kicked Si Bairong's body at the same time. Si Bairong's eyes were still filled with shock. How powerful was Dongbo Shuiying's kick? Si Bairong's body curled up as he was sent flying backwards. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Although he had grabbed Jing Qiu's arm, the ice armor had automatically absorbed the force of his grip. Thus, Jing Qiu was not injured at all. Jing Qiu's eyes widened as she looked at Dongbo Shuiying. Without any hesitation, Dongbo Shuiying kept his Feishue godly spear. At the same time, he held Jing Qiu in front of him with one hand. At the same time he used the largest shield he had chosen to block the impact of the explosion. Jingqiu was originally being held by by Rong as a shield. Now that the explosion had reached them, she had already lost all hope. All of a sudden, a black-robed youth's silhouette dashed through the area of the explosion at a terrifying speed. His speed was so fast that it created a series of afterimages. In Jingqiu's eyes she could see a large number of afterimages of Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying held the shield in one hand and the Feishui godly spear in the other. His eyes were as calm as ever and he did not show any signs of panic. The exploding boulders, stone pillars and countless flying rocks could not stop him at all. At this moment, Jingqiu could feel that Dongbu Shuiying's body was glowing with light. It was as if he was a great hero. At this moment her heart was filled with excitement. After sending by Rong flying with a kick, Dongbu Shuiying grabbed her with one hand and used his entire chest to protect her. At this moment she was pressed against Dongbu Shuiying's chest. Although there was still a layer of ice armor between them, Jingqiu felt a sense of security. It was as if she was still a child when she was in her father's embrace. Dongbu Shuiying did not care about anything else at this moment. He placed his shield behind him to protect his back. Rumble, countless rocks shot out in all directions. Because the entire hall was sealed, the shockwave from the explosion continued to reverberate within the hall. The mountain rocks above also collapsed, and the surrounding walls of the hall collapsed. Countless rocks of various sizes crazily smashed down. No! A mournful scream could be heard. Under the impact of the explosion, by Rong used his shield to defend himself. However, he was still sent flying by the impact of the explosion. Following which he was hit by a large number of rocks. His protective do-chi was shattered, and his body became even weaker. In an instant, a large number of wounds appeared on his body. His head had been hit more than 10 times in an instant. In an instant his vision turned black and he died. Under such an explosion, it was too difficult to stay alive. Perhaps only legend rankers would be able to do so. Humph. Dongbu Shuiying squatted down and pressed his body against Jingqiu. He was trying his best to protect Jingqiu. His left hand was inserted into the ground, and his shield was slanted to reduce the impact of the explosion. Rumble, countless rocks came crashing down, and in an instant the slanted ice surface collapsed. A large number of rocks hit the shield, and some even smashed onto Dongbu Shuiying's feet. Umph. With his left hand grabbing onto the ground, he tried his best to stabilize himself. With his right hand holding onto the shield, he was able to withstand the impact of the explosion. Jingqiu on the other hand was not affected at all. She lowered her head, and could only see Dongbu Shuiying's powerful palm grabbing onto the ground tightly. Looking at his powerful palm, Jingqiu felt relieved. Be careful. All of a sudden an anxious voice rang out. Rumble, the entire hall collapsed and the huge rocks above started to fall. Dongbu Shuiying immediately used his body to protect Jingqiu. At the same time he placed his shield above Jingqiu. Rumble, countless rocks started to fall and the entire hall collapsed. In an instant, Dongbu Shuiying and Jingqiu were completely covered by a few meters of rocks. Gradually the outside became quiet. The shield was above them. Dongbu Shuiying and Jingqiu were both below them. The sound of the explosion gradually dissipated, and the surroundings became pitch black. Humph! Dongbu Shuiying frowned. His right leg had been crushed. However, with his powerful physique, it was only a flesh wound. Are you alright? Jingqiu heard Dongbu Shuiying's voice and asked worriedly. I'm fine. Dongbu Shuiying's voice was still very calm. His right hand was still holding onto the shield to block the rocks above him. These rocks weighed at least 30 to 40,000 jin. Wait for a while. I will break these rocks apart and we will be able to get out. Chapter 49. In the pitch-black environment, Jingqiu had a very unique feeling. First, under the pressure of the god's envoy, she had given up and was prepared to face death. But now, the ordinary-looking Dongbu Shuiying had stepped out and revealed his strength, killing the god's envoy in a head-on confrontation. At this time, Lu Huairu had chosen to perish together with Bai Rong. She had been used as a shield by Bai Rong and once again she had fallen into a situation of certain death. She had been saved once again. In the darkness, under the cover of countless rocks, Jingqiu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. Peng! A loud sound rang out as Dongbu Shuiying exerted strength with a single arm, causing the countless rocks on top of the shield to fly up into the air. Let's go! Dongbu Shuiying immediately hugged Jingqiu's waist with one hand and leapt into the air. At the same time he swung his shield at lightning speed, slapping out tens of times in an instant, knocking away all the rocks that had fallen onto the ground. Hugging the waist of a beautiful female mage with one hand, it looked very beautiful, but in truth, because Jing Qiu's body was protected by the ice armor, the feeling of hugging her was very ordinary. It was very hard and cold and not comfortable at all. Dong. Landing on a pile of rocks, Dongbo Shuang put Jing Qiu down. Be careful. The entire hall might have some boulders falling at any time. It might even collapse a second time. Don't remove your ice armor no matter what. As Shuang spoke, he swept his gaze across his surroundings. Many places around him had completely collapsed. Even some of the pillars and walls of the first and second level of the inner castle had fallen, supporting some of the stone slabs above. Some of the pillars and walls were tilted, while others had already collapsed. Occasionally there would be rocks falling down. These falling rocks were not a threat to the stronger knights, but to the weaker mages, it was a fatal threat. Hence, the protective spell had to be maintained at all times. And Jing Qiu nodded her head. South, Dongbo Shuang on the other hand had already flown away. When he was a distance away he swiftly flicked his spear, sending rocks flying everywhere. Clearly he was going to search for the corpses. But this kind of explosion, even the oracle's body was completely shattered. After all, the power of this explosion was enough to kill a Silver Moon Knight. In the absence of battle chi, whether it was Tang Xiong the oracle or Lu Huairu, their bodies were completely shattered. Similarly, Bai Rong's corpse was no longer intact. Their belongings have been found. Let's go. Dongbo Shuang walked to Jing Qiu's side. All right. Jing Qiu nodded and walked out with Dongbo Shuang. The walls of the hall had been destroyed and even the upper floors had collapsed. Naturally, they were able to walk out of the hall easily. Even if there was no path, a legend ranker like Dongbo Shuang would be able to carve out a path for himself. Dongbo Shuang, thank you. Jing Qiu's voice was filled with gratitude. Thank you for saving my life. If not for you I would have died. In that kind of situation, even if Dongbo Shuang did not save her, it would still be normal. It's nothing much. To me it's just a small matter. But to you it's a matter of life and death. Dongbo Shuang's eyes were filled with a cold glint. I just did not expect that Bai Rong to be so shameless. A knight using a sorcerer as a shield? Dongbo Shuang could be said to have seen it for himself. I also did not expect that he would do such a thing. Jing Qiu's hatred towards Bai Rong had also dissipated. After all, he was already dead. Dongbo Shuang, don't worry. I will not say anything about Bai Rong's matter. I will not say anything about what happened inside. Jing Qiu felt that Bai Rong had been hiding his strength all along, only revealing it at the most crucial moment. Since that was the case, there was no need for her to reveal it. Dongbo Shuang smiled as he looked at her. Ah, your leg is bleeding. Jing Qiu suddenly noticed that Dongbo Shuang's leg was covered in blood. It was the wound from the explosion. Haha, it has stopped bleeding long ago. The blood has already dried up. It's just a small wound. Dongbo Shuang said. As his body grew stronger, his body's recovery rate also increased. The flesh wound had indeed completely healed. Not even a scar could be seen on his skin. The two of them walked side by side. The man was dressed in black, while the woman was dressed in a green robe. Both of their bodies were wrapped in ice armor. It's Liang Yong. After walking for a while, they finally saw Liang Yong's corpse. The entire inner castle was about 1 to 2 miles in size. The explosion had only destroyed the underground palace. The first and second floors had collapsed, but the entire inner castle was still intact. At the very least, the corridor that Liang Yong was in was still mostly intact. He can be considered to have left behind an intact corpse, Shuang said. Very quickly the two of them walked out of the inner castle. The Lu clan's castle was completely sealed in ice. The servants and soldiers had long since hidden themselves far away. Dongbo Shuang and Jing Qiu looked up at the sky. Although the sky was completely dark, Dongbo Shuang's terrifying eyesight allowed him to clearly see the flying ship a few hundred meters above the ground. Come down. Dongbo Shuang shouted loudly, his voice reverberating in the silent night sky. Who? The silver flying ship that was in charge of monitoring the situation quickly descended, landing right in front of Dongbo Shuang and Jing Qiu. Just the two of you? 2 members of the Dragon Mountain Manor walked out. Where are the rest? Where's Bai Rong? They're all dead. Dongbo Shuang said as he took out 3 storage treasures. This armband is Liang Yong's, this armguard is Bai Rong's, and this ring is Tang Xiong's. Please give them to their families. They're all dead? What happened? They're all dead? The two members of the Dragon Mountain Manor were shocked. One of the knights received the 3 storage treasures. Because there were quite a number of people who died in the Dragon Mountain Manor's missions, the treasures would usually be sent to their respective families. This was a rule that had been established for many years. Of course, it was hard to say if the treasures left behind would be taken by their companions. The knight glanced at Dongbo Shuiying but did not say anything. Even if they took some gold notes or other treasures, there was no evidence. In reality, Dongbo Shuiying did not take any of the 3 storage treasures. For example, Liang Yang's armband, Dongbo Shuiying had found it in Si Bai Rong's storage treasure. If not for Dongbo Shuiying, Liang Yang's treasures would have been stolen by Si Bai Rong. And here I thought Si Bai Rong would have many treasures, but he's also very poor. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. Because he had refined the treasures, he knew that Si Bai Rong's wealth was not even comparable to Tang Xiong's. Obviously the Si clan had a very strict control over their wealth. This kind of hedonistic young master who was not willing to take risks would only have so little money. Although he usually dressed extravagantly, his pockets were very empty. He could not be compared to someone like Tang Xiong who had relied on his own strength to rise to power. Of course, the treasures of the 3 of them added up could not even compare to the god's envoy. This god's envoy is really rich. Dongbo Shuiying exclaimed as he recalled. How could he know the process of this god's envoy's rise to power? He had even plotted the death of a legend ranker, which was why he had 2 storage rings with such a large space. Dongbo Shuiying was short on gold coins previously. But now, I'm afraid I'm one of the top 10 richest people in the entire Azure River County. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. I'm afraid that only some other legend rankers can compare to me. And then when I go back I'll have to buy some life-saving magic equipment for my little brother. I still have some powerful magic scrolls with me. Magic scrolls could instantly activate the power of heaven and earth to release a powerful spell. However, it required a mage to guide it. Therefore, knights were unable to use magic scrolls. Of course, in front of a legend ranker who was one with the world and could control the power of heaven and earth. Magic scrolls would not be able to guide even a trace of the power of heaven and earth. To be able to threaten a legend ranker, one had to either be a legend ranker or a transcendent. I'll also strengthen my Snowrock Castle. And I'll also give that girl Yu a good magic staff. For so many years Dongbo Shuiying had never been this rich. He had obtained all the treasures of a demonic emissary who had lived for so many years. He was even richer than some ordinary legend ranker clans. It was Lu Huairu who caused the entire underground hall to explode. He wanted to perish together with us. You'll know once you go and take a look. Jing Qiu did not elaborate. The people from Chu Tai City's Dragon Mountain Manor will soon take over this place. We will now send the 2 of you back to the county city. All right. Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu both nodded and boarded the flying boat. On the flying boat, Jing Qiu removed her ice armor. Her eyes were filled with vigor as she looked at Dongbo Shuiying who was sitting cross-legged beside her. Dongbo Shuiying, when we reach the county city, are you preparing to return? Yes. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Where do you live in Azure River County? Jing Qiu asked curiously. Water Rights Town's Snow Eagle territory. I welcome Mage Jing Qiu to my small territory at any time. Dongbo Shuiying said with a smile. Water Rights Town? Jing Qiu nodded lightly. Outside the flying boat, the night sky was pitch black. Tonight, there was not even a trace of moonlight. The flying boat flew at high speed and the sound of the wind could be faintly heard. Jing Qiu's heart was in turmoil. She gradually closed her eyes and began to calm down. Today's events would never be forgotten by her. Chapter 50. On the morning of the 2nd day, the flying boat finally arrived at the Dragon Mountain Manor. Today I will return to the Eternal Wind Academy. This time, during the explosion, I was inspired by the ice magic I cast, so I will return to the academy to study it. I might not return to the Azure River County for a long time. Jing Qiu had just sat on the back of a fiery red flying beast when she suddenly said this. She did not know why she suddenly said this. The Eternal Wind Academy, I have never been there before. If I have the time, I will definitely go there. Dongbo Shuiying said casually. And Jing Qiu did not say anything else. The fiery red flying beast immediately took off. Jing Qiu, who was dressed in a green robe, quickly flew away. High up in the sky, she looked back at the Dragon Mountain Manor, which had already become smaller. Then she looked towards the south. Dongbo Shuiying rode the Snowstrider horse out of the Dragon Mountain Manor and arrived at a shop that sold mage treasures. The shop was very quiet with only a few customers. After all, the number of mages was very small, and the number of people who came to buy treasures was even smaller. Lulululu, Dongbua Shuang got off the horse and handed it over to the attendant. Sir. Immediately, a female attendant came to greet him. Introduce all the ice magic equipment in your shop to me. Dongbua Shuang said casually. The female attendant had a strange look in her eyes. Introduce all of them? This customer was really overbearing. Did he really have the strength or was he purposely tormenting people? Nevertheless, this female attendant still brought Shuang along as she briefly described each and every one of them to him. Winter bracelet, top quality heaven rank. Inside is an improved miniature ice domain model. Its power is 30% of the power of a meteor rank mage's ice domain. The female attendant said with familiarity, with it, any ordinary mage would be able to instantaneously cast a miniature ice domain. Continue. Dongbua Shuang instantly decided that he wanted this as well. This bracelet is a mid-quality heaven rank equipment. Inside it is an array. Once activated, its power is comparable to a heaven rank mage's arrow storm. Dongbua Shuang listened and filtered. The spell models in the mage equipment were all fixed, and the models were very stable. Mages only needed to instill magic power to activate them. This was the most convenient. Of course, the power of mage equipment couldn't be increased either. A powerful mage still had to rely on their own research to comprehend and build even more powerful spell models. Even a Silver Moon mage, even if they had powerful mage equipment, would not be able to cast any spells under the control of a legend ranker. Therefore, one's own strength was the foundation. Of course, the probability of encountering a legend ranker is extremely small. My little brother is only an ordinary mage now. At most, he can use a heaven tier mage equipment. As for the meteor mage equipment, it could not be activated. Not bad. Dongbua Shuang sifted through them carefully. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Give me all of them. The maid widened her eyes and mouth. The items that Dongbua Shuang had chosen were all heaven tier items. What was the best quality of the heaven rank? Normally, the might of a meteor mage equipment would be around 30 to 40%. Some of them were specially created. Calculate how many gold coins would it cost. Dongbua Shuang instructed. Oh right, give me that staff and that mage robe as well. Dongbua Shuang also chose a staff and mage robe for Yu. The price of the staff was much cheaper, only 2,000 gold coins. After all, the main purpose of the staff was to support a mage in casting spells. For a mage who was too weak, giving them the best staff would not be of much use. As for the mage robe, it was actually a heaven tier mage equipment. It was much more expensive, costing 18,000 gold coins. Dongbua Shuang felt that with his relationship with Yu, it was more than enough. It was not enough for him to give it to her like how he gave his little brother. This lord. Immediately, the shop owner's attention was attracted by the price. He immediately said, these 5 heaven tier items are slightly more expensive. Eliminating the small change, it would cost a total of 200,000 gold coins. As for the mage robe and the staff, it would cost 20,000 gold coins. Haha, in total, it would be 200,000 gold coins. I hope that you will come visit us more often in the future. I dare not say that the price I gave you is the cheapest in the entire Azure River County, but it is not too far off. In the entire county city, there were not many people who would dare to spend 200,000 gold coins. For example, the Bent Blade Union's Gubin who had been crazily plundering for so many years, how much gold coins would he have? Perhaps only a person with a net worth of millions of gold coins would dare to spend so much. This kind of big customer must be properly maintained. And Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. May I know who this lord is? The shop owner asked in a low voice. Dongbua. Just call me Dongbua. Dongbua Shuang said. Lord Dongbua, our Crimson Moon House, has many branches in the entire Tranquil Sun province. This is a token. In the future, no matter how cheap the item is, you will get a 10% discount. The shop owner immediately presented a purple gold plate. Obviously, this plate was made by a mage. In fact, the items that Dongbua Shuang bought this time were just a little more than 200,000 gold coins after a 10% discount. The shop owner also decided that when he returned, he would thoroughly investigate where in the entire Azure River County there was such a powerful person who could spend 200,000 gold coins. Soon after, Dongbua Shuang went to buy some alchemy equipment. His own robes and inner armor were indeed too poor. They were even worse than many Silver Moon Knights. Moreover, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong also needed to get a good set of treasures. After purchasing, on the same day, Dombu Shuiying rode the snowstrider horse and rushed towards Water Rights Town. After 2 days of continuous travel, he arrived at Snow Eagle territory on the evening of the second day. I'm finally home. Looking at the majestic Snowrock Mountain and the castle at the peak, Dombu Shuiying's heart was filled with joy. This was his home. Da-da-da, the horse galloped and soon arrived at the castle. Lord has returned. Lord has returned. Quickly go and tell young Master Qingshi. The whole castle quickly became lively. The drawbridge was lowered and the city gates slowly opened. Zhongling and Tong San also came to the city gates to welcome their return. Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong. Dombu Shuiying got off the horse and greeted them with a smile. You must have had a hard time rushing back. Qingshi is still at his teacher's place. The servants have already gone to pass on the message. I believe that Qingshi and Yu will be back soon. Zhongling laughed. Dombu Shuiying smiled and nodded. He had just prepared a gift for them. Oh yes, I have something to tell you. A genius mage from the Xi clan, Xi Qin, has come to visit us. Zhongling said. Xi clan? Dombu Shuiying frowned. Could it be because of Xi Bairong's death? But logically speaking, the Xi clan should not know the name list of the 5 people who accepted the mission. Dragon Mountain Manor did not dare to divulge it, and Jing Qiu also could not divulge it. Moreover, Jing Qiu had already gone to the Eternal Wind Academy. Just 2 days ago, this wizard Xi Qin came over to pay a visit to Grandmaster Bai Yuanji. Both of them are meteor rank mages. It is said that they need to discuss some research. Zhongling said. Snow Eagle, you should know the status of the Xi clan in our Azure River County. I did not dare to neglect them. Fortunately, this Xi Qin has been living in the Great Mage's building. But since you have returned, you should still meet him. And? Dombu Shuiying nodded. What a coincidence. He had just met Xi Bairong during the mission and now a mage, Xi Qin, had come to visit him? But since he had arrived 2 days ago, it should have nothing to do with Xi Bairong. It seems that I have some fate with the Xi clan. Dombu Shuiying thought. Uncle Zong, send someone to invite this young master of the Xi clan to a feast tomorrow. Dombu Shuiying said. Chapter 51. That night inside Snow Rock Castle. The long table was very big and was filled with dozens of dishes. Dombu Shuiying sat on the main seat. On his left and right were Zhongling and Tong San. Opposite him sat his little brother Qingshi and his girlfriend. As for Kong Yu, she was sitting together with her girlfriend. Brother, this is Jirong. She is also teacher's disciple. She lives in Water Rights Town. Qingshi's face was slightly red, but he still said it straightforwardly. Jirong? Ah. Dombu Shuiying laughed. You can also call me big brother like Qingshi. Jirong greets big brother Snow Eagle. Jirong said in a crisp voice. This girl named Jirong looked a little immature. She should be around the same age as Qingshi. She was not very tall, but she was small and exquisite. Her eyes were very beautiful. She was a good match for Qingshi. Unknowingly, Qingshi had already changed from a chubby little brat to the point where he had a girlfriend. Speaking of which, Qingshi had never really had a girlfriend before. Although he was close to Yu because of the matter of saving his parents, he had never made it clear in his heart. This is our first meeting. I have prepared a gift for you. I hope you don't mind. Dombu Shuiying said as he flipped his hand. A white crystal jade box appeared in his hand. Hurry up and go. Qingshi hurriedly urged his girlfriend. Jirong also got up and walked over. She took the box from Dombu Shuiying's hand and said, Thank you, big brother Snow Eagle. Haha. Dombu Shuiying laughed. He was sweating a little. He had bought some important treasures for Qingshi, Yu, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. However, he did not think about his little brother's girlfriend. After all, he had never seen her before. After knowing that his little brother had brought his girlfriend to dinner, Dombu Shuiying hurriedly went through the items. Fortunately, he had gained a lot from this trip. In the corner of the demonic emissary's spatial ring, there was a box of jewels. He reckoned that the demonic emissary had obtained it by chance at some point in time. That box of jewels was worth more than 100,000 gold coins. Shuiying immediately picked out a relatively beautiful piece and placed it in a top-notch crystal jade box. He reckoned that it was worth around 1,000 gold coins. After all, she was his little brother's girlfriend. She was not his real wife. 1,000 gold coins was more than enough. Some territories only earned about 1,000 gold coins a year. Brother, you went out quite quickly this time. I thought it would be delayed for another half a month, Qingshi said. This time, I've brought some gifts for you and Yu during my trip to the county capital. Shuiying laughed. Yu, this is yours. Saying that, Shui Ying flipped his hand, taking out a staff and a set of violet robes. Brother Snow Eagle, are you giving these to me? Yu hesitated. The staff looked expensive and the robe looked extraordinary. This staff is made from the wood of the wind song wood. It is very valuable. Just take it when I tell you to. Dombo Shui Ying shook his head and smiled. The staff was only worth 2,000 gold coins. The robe was worth 18,000 gold coins. The robe was a heaven-rank mage's protective equipment. If this girl knew that this robe is a heaven-rank mage's equipment, I am afraid she would not accept it. Dombo Shui Ying laughed. And Yu accepted it. Ji Rong was sitting beside Yu. She looked at the staff and the robe. Suddenly her expression changed. Brother, what about me? Where is mine? Didn't you say you would bring me a gift? Qingshi could not help but ask. What's the hurry? Dombo Shui Ying looked at him. Look at your impatient expression. I will give it to you after dinner. You did it on purpose. Qingshi said helplessly. I did it on purpose. I wanted to sharpen your temper. As a mage, you do not even have this little bit of patience. Dombo Shui Ying shook his head. Qingshi could only obediently hang his head. After dinner, Yu stayed in Snow Rock Castle. Snow Rock Castle had prepared a small courtyard for Yu. As for Qingshi, he sent his girlfriend back to the mage's building. Ji Rong, let me see what gift my brother gave you. Qingshi and Ji Rong walked side by side. Only then did Ji Rong open the crystal box. Inside the box was a necklace made of emerald. The emerald emitted a faint green light in the dark night. A top-quality emerald necklace. Ji Rong said. I am afraid it is worth nearly 1,000 gold coins. As a mage, she naturally knew a lot of materials and jewelry. So expensive. Qingshi was surprised. Then he said proudly, my brother is generous, right? Generous, not just ordinary generous. Ji Rong put away the jade box. After a moment of silence, she whispered, Dombo Qingshi, do you know how much the gift your brother gave to Kong Yu is worth? That staff? Wind song wood? I think it is worth 2,000 gold coins. Qingshi said casually. Sister Yu has been in our Snow Rock Castle for a long time. She has a good relationship with my brother. But my brother has never given her a staff. It is normal for him to give her a good staff. Humph. Ji Rong snorted. I'm not talking about the staff. I'm talking about that robe. That mage equipment robe. Mage equipment? Qingshi stared at her. Are you sure? Kong Yu was beside me. I saw it clearly. That robe is a mage equipment. There is also a symbol on it. It is the symbol of Master Alchemist, Master Yanwen. Master Yanwen's equipment is at least Earth rank. Most of them are even Heaven rank. Ji Rong snorted. Are you sure? Qingshi could not believe it. I'm also a mage. How could I be wrong? Ji Rong's eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Master Yanwen personally made it. Even if it is an Earth rank, it would be a top-quality Earth rank item. That robe would cost at least 5,000 gold coins. It might even cost more than 10,000 gold coins. Not to mention that staff. This time your brother gave Kong Yu a gift of around 10,000 gold coins. Dong Bo Qingshi, your brother is not just any ordinary kind of forthright. Qingshi grinned. My brother and Yu are very close. Don't be silly. Ji Rong lowered her voice. You and your brother are blood brothers. You are also the heir of Snow Eagle territory. Are you just going to watch your brother give away these treasures? Qingshi was slightly surprised. You are 16 years old today. You can't always live with your brother, right? You have to be independent, right? Ji Rong said. Even blood brothers can settle accounts. Why are you saying this? Qingshi frowned. He was a little annoyed. I'm doing this for your own good. Ji Rong said. I have already seen it. That year, my father desperately went into business because he trusted my uncle too much. The money he earned belonged to the whole family. After 20 years of hard work, the whole family was earned by my father. What happened in the end? My uncle turned hostile and chased my father out. My father didn't have anything. He didn't even have a place to live. He had to stay at my mother's house. I am saying this to tell you that you don't have the intention to harm others. But you have to be cautious. I have heard you say that your brother trained very hard. Moreover, he soaked in medicinal baths every day. That's why his body didn't collapse. But do you know how much it costs to soak in medicinal baths every day for a year? It costs 5,000 gold coins a year. From the age of 6 to 16, your brother spent a total of 10 years. In total, he spent 50,000 gold coins. Ji Rong said. At that time, your parents bought a noble title and territory. They also bought a large number of star-breaking crossbows. They also prepared medicinal bats for your brother for many years. There were also armors, castles and other expenses. All of these added up to nearly 200,000 gold coins. This shows that your parents obtained a huge amount of wealth during their adventure. You have always been extravagant. Before your brother killed the Silver Moon Wolf King, he never earned any money. He has always been spending the money left behind by your parents. Ji Rong said. Do you know how much money your parents left behind? Do you? Qing Shi was silent. You don't know. Ji Rong sneered. Such a huge amount of wealth. When your parents went on a life-and-death adventure, they probably obtained a relic of a legend rancor. Maybe they even obtained a relic of a transcendent. Anything is possible. But now, everything is under your brother's control. You don't know anything about what your parents left behind. Everything is under your brother's control. Now he just casually gave Kong Yu a treasure worth tens of thousands of gold coins. Tens of thousands of gold coins. My father worked hard for 20 years to earn that much, but he just casually gave it to her. Ji Rong looked at Qing Shi. Strictly speaking, these things don't belong to your brother. They were left behind by your parents. It should be shared between you and your brother. Chapter 52. As the direct descendant of the Dong Bo clan, it's fine that you didn't get a share. But you should at least know how much wealth your parents left behind, right? Ji Rong shook her head. But you don't know anything. Maybe I'm being mean, but it's always good to be on guard. Enough, don't say any more. Qing Shi was a little angry. You don't understand the relationship between me and my brother. When your brother kicks you out, you'll be dumbfounded. Ji Rong shook her head. You shut up. Qing Shi's eyes were red with tears. He is my brother, my most important family member. Do you know that? Ji Rong was a little scared. She looked at the red-eyed teenager in front of her and couldn't help but lower her head and reach out to grab Qing Shi's hand. I'm sorry, I was wrong. You don't understand the relationship between me and my brother. In the future, don't talk about this, I'm very uncomfortable. Qing Shi's voice was trembling. And then, Ji Rong nodded and softly said, you know, when my father was kicked out, our family was very miserable. We didn't have a place to live, so we temporarily stayed with my mother's family. Me, my father, my mother. Were always looked down upon by my mother's family, always suppressed. That period of time is the most unpleasant memory for me. Fortunately, my father pulled himself together and started a business. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't have the opportunity to learn magic. I understand you. Qing Shi said, but our family is different from yours. Well, you can go back, I'll also go back. After saying that, Qing Shi turned around and walked back to the castle. Ji Rong silently looked at Qing Shi's receding back. I didn't expect his brother to have such a high position in his heart. Ji Rong slightly frowned. I've been learning magic together with Dong Bo Qing Shi for almost half a year, and I've been his girlfriend for almost half a year. It's only now that I've found the opportunity to talk about it. Moreover, what I said was just a matter of course. I didn't expect it to stimulate him so much. What kind of wealth did this Dongbo family get? If I can find out? Ji Rong gently smiled, a trace of evilness flashed in her eyes. Although he and his brother have a deep relationship, today can be considered as opening a crack, flowers will bear fruit. This Dongbo Qing Shi is too young and naive. His brother is too protective of him. If he can't even deal with this brat, then that would be a big joke. Dongbo Qing Shi was on his way back to the castle. My brother has never lied to me. Dong Bo kicked away a pebble. The pebble flew up and landed in the distance. It rolled for a long distance and directly rolled down the mountain top. When I first became Master's disciple, I heard that Master's condition was 50,000 gold coins or the Silver Moon Wolf King's heart. Dongbo Qing Shi's eyes suddenly lit up. My brother told me that there would be news within a month. He hadn't even comprehended one with the world. Compared to some of the older generation's legendary legend rankers, he was still a bit weaker. They didn't expect to meet a legend ranker during the mission. Even though his combat power is very strong, and he has some formidable techniques, I've still managed to kill him. Shuang grinned. He was relatively happy. He died and I lived. I obtained his storage ring. There were a lot of treasures in it. Buying these was easy. Zhong Ling and Tong San were both excited and proud of Dongbo Shuang. Snow Eagle. Zhong Ling was slightly worried. I didn't expect a Black Iron mission to meet with such an accident. You said you wanted to accumulate 20,000 merit points to save Donghua, you and the others. But 20,000 merit points? Even if it's a bronze mission, you said that the easier ones are only 1,000 merit points. I'm afraid a bronze mission with 10,000 merit points is a more dangerous one. Even Black Iron quests have their own twists and turns. Even bronze quests, which are inherently dangerous, are ranked high. You want to complete them twice? Zhong Ling was a little uneasy. It's too unsafe. Why don't you wait a little longer until you're stronger? Don't worry, Uncle Zhong. I will take care of myself. Donghua Shuang consoled him. Confidence? Zhong Ling was still uneasy. Oh. A Black Iron mission had already produced a legend ranker. What if a Transcendent suddenly appeared in a difficult bronze mission? Although Dragon Mountain Manor wouldn't arrange a suicide mission, accidents were hard to say. Brother. Donghua Qingshi's voice came from outside. Qingshi is here. Donghua Shuang smiled. The door to the study was pushed open and Donghua Qingshi walked in excitedly. Brother, didn't you say you were going to give me a gift? What gift? Wow, Uncle Zhong, Uncle Tong, why did you guys change? The inner armors you're wearing seem to be extraordinary. Why did you change your boots too? I've never seen them before. This time I went out with a big harvest, so I bought some gifts. Donghua Shuang smiled. I also bought some for you. Saying that, he waved his hand. Hoo. Treasures appeared on the side. They were all top-quality heaven-rank mage tools. This robe contains a complete spell model of ice and water armor. It's a simplified protective spell formed by the combination of ice armor and water ripple. It's both hard and soft, and it can be activated instantly. Its power can be 50% of a meteor-rank mage's defensive spell. Donghua Shuang proudly introduced them one by one. This bracelet contains a small-scale ice domain spell model. It also has 30% of a meteor-rank spell's power. This ring? Donghua Shuang introduced them one by one. Qingshi was shocked and excited. He finally understood why his brother gave Kong Yuyu the staff, mage equipment and robe this time. He hadn't given her anything in the past few years. This was because his brother's harvest this time was huge. Even the value of Uncle Zhong and Uncle Tong's alchemy treasures were definitely higher than Kong Yuyu's. As for his own items, they were even more valuable. All of them were heaven-ranked mage equipment. In the past, he didn't even dare to think about it. Chapter 53. This is the last item and also the most important one. Donghua Shuang picked up a pendant and opened it. Inside was a transparent sphere. It can store mana. At most, it can store all the mana of a heaven-rank mage. Your mana is still too little. Using these mage equipment will be very strenuous. Normally you should store more mana. At crucial moments you can use it to cast more spells. Yes. Qingshi nodded his head. His brother was too considerate. But these are still external forces. Donghua Shuang advised. Becoming stronger yourself is the most important. Although there were many of these equipment, a truly powerful knight, even a meteor knight, would still be able to threaten Qingshi's life. These mage equipment could at most dominate those below the meteor rank. Of course, they had the advantage of being able to cast them instantaneously. They could barely fight against a meteor knight. Brother, I understand. These equipment are already very powerful. Even teacher doesn't have so many mage equipment. Qingshi said. I just obtained this storage ring. The space inside it is very big. Its value is hard to estimate. You must not expose it. Donghua Shuang took out a black ring. At first glance, this ring looked like a circle made of iron wire. You are an official mage now. Remember to disguise this ring a little to prevent others from recognizing it. Although there was nothing special about the ring from the outside, Donghua Shuang was still very cautious. One must know that a storage ring with a space of 3 feet was worth tens of thousands of gold coins. This kind of storage ring with a space of 3 meters? The space inside it was already very shocking. Normally it would be worth close to 1,000,000 gold coins. This number was very frightening. This kind of storage ring was usually in the hands of legend rankers. Normally, nobles and merchants would not have the ability to protect such a valuable item. Even among legend rankers, there were many storage rings that did not have such a big space. Is it very big? After obtaining it, Qingshi easily refined it with his mana. He immediately widened his eyes. So big. It was very difficult to refine a storage treasure. Some very small spaces could be obtained through some special alchemy methods. As for some of the larger space rings, they had to ask an extraordinary great wizard who was very proficient in the aspect of space to personally cut out a stable space. For some extraordinary life forms they might be able to cut out space, but they had to stabilize it. Furthermore, it was very difficult to fix it in a storage treasure. Therefore, every large space ring was extremely expensive. Qing Shi was a mage, so of course he understood the value of such a storage ring. "Brother, how did you get it?" Qing Shi hastily asked. "This mistress? Haha, I told you I had a great harvest outside this time." Dongbu Shuang laughed. "You should also take a look at the magic scrolls in the storage ring. Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and I are unable to use these scrolls, so I'll give them to you. The value of these scrolls added together is quite shocking. You have to study them one by one. These are your life-saving treasures." Magic scrolls were even more heaven-defying. He threw out a scroll, channeled his magic power, and with a boom, a powerful magic exploded. Of course, the scroll was also consumed. Therefore, throwing magic scrolls was equivalent to throwing gold coins. Furthermore, magic scrolls were still very popular. During a critical moment, when a mage did not have the time to slowly recite the incantation to cast a powerful magic, they would be able to instantly use the magic scrolls to save their lives. These were the spoils of war of that god's envoy. Dongbu Shuang took all of them and left them all to his little brother. "Big brother, these magic scrolls are too precious." Qing Shi sensed that these magic scrolls were all extraordinary. Some of them should be rank 5 magic scrolls. As for whether there were rank 6 magic scrolls, he would need to study them. "I'm a little scared." Qing Shi was slightly worried. So many treasures caused him to tremble in fear. "What are you scared of?" Dongbu Shuang shook his head. "Categorize the magic scrolls according to their power. Don't use these magic scrolls unless it's a critical moment. In a life and death situation, survival is the most important thing." Qing Shi nodded. "Use the ring as a disguise and carry the magic scrolls with you. As long as you don't say anything, Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and I will not harm you. No one will know." Dongbu Shuang said, "Remember, don't tell anyone. Even if it's your little girlfriend, don't tell anyone." Inside Snow Rock Castle, Dongbu Shuang only trusted these 3 people in front of him. Needless to say, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong had a true life and death relationship with his father and mother. They were like family to him. Not to mention his relationship with his little brother. It's just that his little brother was too young. He was afraid that he would brag about it to others. Thus, Dongbu Shuang gave him a serious reminder. "Big brother, don't worry." "I know. I won't tell anyone." Qing Shi replied. "Ah, don't be nervous. It's just some external objects. Your own strength is the most important thing." Dongbu Shuang laughed. He never really cared about these external objects. However, Qing Shi felt very complicated. Previously, his girlfriend had said so much. But now, his big brother had given him a gift that was unimaginably expensive. His teacher Bai Yuanji had worked hard for so many years, but it wasn't even 10% of his wealth, right? "Big brother." Qing Shi walked over and hugged Dongbu Shuang. "I want to hug you for a while. You little brat." Dongbu Shuang was stunned when he was hugged by his little brother. He then rubbed his little brother's head gently. When he was young, his little brother would often hug him. Even when he slept, he loved to hug him. However, as he grew older, it had been a long time since he hugged him like this. "And it's done." Qing Shi raised his head and grinned. "Big brother, I'm going back to study those scrolls." With that, he turned and dashed away. Shuang looked at the open door of the study room, his eyebrows slightly wrinkled. "We're leaving too. Snow Eagle, sleep early." Tong San said. "Close the door first. I have something to say." Dongbu Shuang frowned. Zhong Ling closed the door and the two looked at Dongbu Shuang. "I feel that Qing Shi is different today." Dongbu Shuang frowned. "Although he pretends to be natural, I've seen him grow up. I can guess what he's thinking with just a blink of an eye. He can't hide it from me. He even hugged me at the end. That's why I feel that something is wrong." Zhong Ling and Tong San were puzzled. Dongbu Shuang thought for a while and said, "At his age, he doesn't have much to worry about in the mountains. I'm afraid that he has some relationship problems. Moreover, everything was fine during dinner. He sent his girlfriend back, but now I'm in a bad mood. I'm afraid it has something to do with his girlfriend." "Uncle Zong," Dongbu Shuang said. "I'll write a letter right now. Send someone to Water Rights Town's Dragon Mountain Manor to Manor Lord Cien. I need his help. I need to find out everything about my little brother's girlfriend, Ji Rong. I need to know everything about her since she was young, all her relatives, everything she's done since she was born. I need to know what kind of person this Ji Rong is. Even if his little brother's mood wasn't right today, he would still find out everything about this Ji Rong. How could Dongbo Shuiying rest assured that his little brother would date her and live together with her in the future? Okay, I'll send someone over today. Zhongling nodded and smiled. Snow Eagle, why didn't you tell Qingshi that you've reached legend rank? That's right, Snow Eagle. You're about to accept a bronze rank mission. Why are you still hiding it? Tong San said. Dongbo Shuiying lightly shook his head. Qingshi has too little experience. He's too naive. If he knew that I'm a legend rank, who knows how arrogant he would be. It's even possible for him to become a flamboyant playboy, which I don't want to see. Qingshi is still not diligent enough in his magic practice. Even Yu has broken through to the earth rank, but he is still an ordinary mage. Don't be too demanding. He's only 16 years old. Zhongling laughed. I entered the mountain range of desolation to kill the shadow leopard when I was 15. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. I still need to find Master Bai Yuanji to give Qingshi some pressure. Don't be idle every day. His talent in magic is much higher than Mother's, and his mental strength has been extremely high since he was a child. However, his strength is only average among Master Bai Yuanji's group of disciples. Even Yu, whose cultivation talent was far inferior to his, has a higher cultivation than him. Dongbo Shuiying was now a legend rank. He stood at the peak of the mortal world. His goal was to become a transcendent. But what worried him the most was his little brother. The next morning. Water Wright's town, Dragon Mountain Manor. Lord, this is a handwritten letter from Dongbo Shuiying. The white-haired old man Yu placed a letter on the long table. Lord Xian was sitting there. His ears twitched and he looked up. It's a handwritten letter from Dongbo Shuiying? Why did it arrive so early? It was sent last night. Yu replied. What's so urgent that it was sent overnight? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Lord Xian immediately picked up the letter. Yu smiled. I took a look. It's not anything important. It's just that Dongbo Shuiying asked you to help investigate his little brother's girlfriend Ji Rong. It was too late at that time, so I didn't want to disturb you. In the future, if there's anything regarding Dongbo Shuiying, you must inform me immediately. Lord Xian solemnly said. Okay, I understand. Yu felt a little strange. This was just a trivial matter of investigating a little girlfriend. Why did he need to know immediately? The dignified Dragon Mountain Manor's lord was so cheap? Right, he also sent someone to attach 1,000 gold coins and gold notes. Yu said. Dongbo Shuiying's way of doing things is really interesting. Lord Xian also smiled. It was fine for these experts to ask Dragon Mountain Manor for help, but because it wasn't official business, they generally had to pay a fee for their services. Asking for a person's background and taking out 1,000 gold coins was considered a large sum. Ji Rong? Lord Xian immediately arrange for someone to investigate Ji Rong's background with the highest level of information. Her parents, her relatives and friends. Everything from when she was born until now. Investigate everything clearly as soon as possible. The highest level? Yu was surprised. Dragon Mountain Manor originally monitored the world. Their information network was #1 in the world. But such a small matter needed the highest level of information? This was too much of a joke. Yes, go. Lord Xian ordered. Yes. Yu could only accept the order and immediately went to arrange it. Lord Xian sat there and picked up a file next to him. He opened the scroll and looked at it. Lord Xian, keep an eye on Dongbo Shuiying. Pay attention to all news about him. This person is suspected to be a legend ranker. There's a 50% chance of him being a legend ranker. This was an order from the county capital. Legend ranker? Really? Lord Xian couldn't help but mutter. He had already received the news for a day, but he was still in shock. But the county capital had enough evidence. For instance, Dongbo Shuiying had spent 500,000 gold coins on shopping in the county city, and this was only a supplementary amount. The key point was the battle in the Liu family's castle. Because the demon god was involved, Dragon Mountain Manor was very careful in their investigation. They found short spears embedded deep in the boulder. Among the 5 experts that were dispatched, only Dongbo Shuiying used short spears. When he was 15 years old, Dongbo Shuiying used short spears to kill a large number of bandits from the Bent Blade Union. At the same time, they also found curved darts deeply embedded in the boulder. Each curved dart was refined by a powerful master alchemist and was worth 1,000 gold coins. Even a Silver Moon Knight wouldn't be so extravagant. Judging from the depth of these darts and short spears embedded in the boulder, only a legend ranker could pierce so deeply. the explosion would not have allowed the short spears to penetrate so deeply into the boulder. In addition, the power of the explosion was enough to kill a Silver Moon Knight. But Dongbo Shuiying wasn't injured at all. Even Jingqiu survived. There were also various other clues. For example, there were some traces of battle left on the boulder. From these, it could be vaguely deduced that a battle between legend rankers took place here. Moreover, the other party might have died and the one who survived was the young Dongbo Shuiying. Therefore, Dongbo Shuiying had become extremely wealthy. That was why he could casually spend 500,000 gold coins in the county capital. Such a young legend knight? If it's true, it's too scary. Lord Xian muttered. The entire Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor had already focused their attention on Dongbo Shuiying. Chapter 54. Dongbo Shuiying hosted a banquet to welcome the young mage from the Xi clan, Xi Qin. After seeing him, Dongbo Shuiying secretly nodded his head. To be able to become a meteor mage at such a young age, he is indeed extraordinary. He is completely different from Xi Bairong. That's right. The Xi clan has been flourishing in the Azure River County for hundreds of years. The number of clansmen is huge, but they are a mix of good and bad. Although they have a playboy like Xi Bairong, they also have a true elite like Xi Qin. For a knight, before stepping into the legend rank, one's innate talent is still more important. If one's body was talented, coupled with resources and a good battle chi technique, they would be able to cultivate smoothly until they reached the Silver Moon Knight rank. Therefore, among the Silver Moon Knights, there are a bunch of good-looking but useless ones. Mages, on the other hand, are different. They need to analyze the world and nature. They have a high requirement for wisdom and knowledge. No powerful mage can be underestimated. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. None of the mages he had met were stupid. They were all intelligent and shrewd. Knights, on the other hand, were different. There were brave ones, reckless ones, and foolish ones. However, to step into the legend rank, be it a knight or a mage, it is equally difficult. Dongbo Shuiying nodded his head slightly. Becoming a legend ranker was too difficult. A young Silver Moon Knight would not be valued as it depended on one's innate talent. But legend ranker, the requirement for one's spirit was simply too high. Even though he had been a spear master for many years, Dongbo Shuiying was still unable to achieve one with the world. He only had the strength of a legend ranker because of his primordial bloodline. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to achieve one with the world. Any legend ranker, no matter if they were a knight or a mage, were all truly amazing. Their spiritual cultivation was extremely high. They were either heroes, ambitious and ruthless characters, or demons. All of them were extraordinary. Only such an existence could hope to become a transcendent. At that time, they would no longer be mortals, and even the gods would be afraid of them. Time passed day by day. Dongbo Shuiying was not in a hurry to accept the mission because he could vaguely feel that the change in his soul had reached a critical moment. Awesome. After practicing his spear art for a while and stretching his body, Dongbo Shuiying felt extremely comfortable and he leaped into the air. Swoosh. In the blink of an eye, he had reached the roof of the castle's main building. The castle's main building occupied a relatively large area, and its roof was very wide. It was made out of huge rocks. Shuiying casually sat on a flight of stairs, leaning against the huge rock behind him as he looked at the distant scene. This was the highest point of the castle. With a glance, the distant castle walls were very low and were not an obstacle at all. The surrounding mountain peaks were all within his line of sight. The wizard tower was also clearly visible. At the foot of the mountain, there were some farmlands and villages where commoners lived. Boom boom boom, in the distance at the foot of the mountain, there was a huge white chain. That was the origin of the name of Azure River County, Azure River. The Azure River stretched for thousands of miles, and was the mother river of the entire Azure River County. The width of the river was usually more than a few thousand meters. Even though he was looking down from above, Dongbo Shuiying could still hear the roaring of the river. So beautiful. A smile appeared on Dongbo Shuiying's face. The castle, the mountain, the countless villages dotted with stars, and the winding Azure River. Everything was like a dream. Ever since he was young, Dongbo Shuiying loved to look down at his own territory like this. It was truly beautiful. This was his home and he loved his home. With a flip of his hand, he took out an iron flask of wine and took a sip. The wine was very spicy, burning his heart. Normally, Dongbo Shuiying would drink some fruit wine and tea. He would never touch a single drop of strong alcohol. Only when he was in a good or bad mood would he drink a little. Obviously he was in a good mood right now. Killing the god's envoy had allowed Dongbo Shuiying to have a clearer view of himself. There was hope to save his parents. His younger brother had also grown up. All of this caused Dongbo Shuiying to be in a good mood. As for the other trivial matters, he was too lazy to care about them. In front of his absolute strength, whoever dared to cause trouble in the Snow Eagle territory, he would crush them to death. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Gradually Dongbo Shuiying's breathing slowed down, his heartbeat slowed down, and his blood flow slowed down. Dongbo Shuiying's heart became calmer and calmer. His perception of his surroundings became clearer and clearer. He could even hear the footsteps of the servants in the castle, and the laughter of the soldiers in the distance. The wind around him. It was howling. The wind on the mountain peak was extremely strong, and it felt very comfortable. There was the fragrance of flowers. There was the fragrance of grass. Nature, how beautiful. Dongbo Shuiying was extremely happy as he felt everything around him. Phew. All of a sudden he could feel the entire world trembling. Or rather, it was not the world that was trembling but his heart. It was like a chick breaking out of its shell, or a small blade of grass growing out of the soil. In that instant, Dongbo Shuiying felt that his spirit, which had been shackled by his physical body, had finally broken through the shackles. His spirit broke out of his shell and became one with the world around him. Originally, he had always felt that nature was beautiful, but that was only because he was looking at it through a thin veil. Now that his spirit had broken through the veil and become one with the world, the feeling was completely different. The wind blew and he felt as though he himself had become the wind. Countless gusts of wind were chasing each other, mixing together, or scattering chaotically. There were even more subtle, innumerable powers. The power of fire, the power of water, the power of the earth, the power of wind, the power of lightning, the power of light, the power of darkness. All sorts of fundamental powers originated from the world. He could clearly feel them. This was the true power of heaven and earth. Mages needed to use their magic power to construct spell models to guide the power of heaven and earth to cast spells. But after attaining the state of being one with the world, one could directly control the power of heaven and earth. This was the difference in essence. Therefore, in front of a legend ranker, anyone below the legend rank would not be able to guide the power of heaven and earth. Naturally, they would not be able to cast any powerful spells. So comfortable. After his spirit broke out of his shell and became one with the world, he was instantly nourished by the power of heaven and earth. Just like a small sapling that was being watered by water, it started to grow. Ever since he was born, this was the first time his spirit was directly nourished by the power of heaven and earth. In an instant it started to transform. This transformation was extremely fast. Dongbo Shuiying was still immersed in the feeling of being one with the world. Before he could even recover, the transformation of his spirit gradually stopped. However, at this moment, the power of his spirit was already 10 to 100 times stronger than before. With the nourishment of heaven and earth and the strengthening of his spirit, there was now hope for him to step into the realm of transcendence. One with the world. Dongbo Shuiying thought. Boom. Immediately, the power of fire surged into his body, directly rushing through his body. There was no need for him to use his Do Qi to guide it. This was many times faster than usual. Dongbo Shuiying's body, which was originally progressing very slowly, started to become stronger under the crazy absorption of the power of fire. He could clearly feel the change in his body. No wonder. Knights who have yet to awaken their primordial bloodline would need to become one with the world and borrow the power of heaven and earth to complete their accumulation, allowing their Do Qi to undergo a qualitative change and step into the realm of legend. Dongbo Shuiying was delighted. At this moment, his body was absorbing the power of the outside world. Even the Do Qi within his body was being absorbed. The liquid form of the Do Qi was continuously being absorbed, becoming denser and denser. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the qi in his dantian started to ache. It was obvious that he could no longer absorb any more. An hour later, even his body, which had awakened his primordial bloodline, could no longer withstand the energy and was unable to absorb any more. It was impossible for a person to become fat in a single mouthful. It was obvious that the power of heaven and earth was limitless. Dongbo Shuiying's body also needed a natural transformation process. Based on this rate, I should be able to step into the realm of Silver Moon Night within half a month. Dongbo Shuiying was extremely happy. My body's strength is also growing every day. I'm afraid that in another 2 months, my strength will double again. After becoming one with the world, Dongbo Shuiying's body would continue to improve until it reached the realm of transcendence, which was the true limit of his primordial bloodline. That was an extremely terrifying power. One with the world. I, Dongbo Shuang, am 22 years old and have finally become one with the world. Dongbo Shuang stood up and stood on the roof. He looked at the vast sky, the vast land, and the surging green river in the distance. He could not help but be filled with pride. I have the hope of stepping into the realm of transcendence in the future. Transcendence, flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, drinking wine with the deities, tearing the demons apart. He had seen the 3,000 legend rankers on the Dragon Mountain book. Dongbo Shuang understood how heaven-defying it was to be able to become one with the world at the age of 22. His spirit grew so quickly. He had more than 100 years to find his own path and step into the realm of transcendence. Dongbo Shuang released his spirit and became one with the world. Everything around him became incomparably clear. He could even sense some of the soldiers and family members outside the castle. Dongbo Shuang could not help but blush. He immediately sensed other places and found Yu Yu's residence. Yu Yu was currently in her house in her courtyard, chatting with another young man. Yu Yu's younger brother is here as well? Dongbo Shuang was slightly surprised. Chapter 55. Yu too. She didn't even say a word when her brother came. Seems like we have to add more dishes today. Suddenly Shui Ying's eyebrows twitched. Under the effect of one with the world, even the sound of a fly flapping its wings could be heard clearly. Naturally, the conversation between Yu Yu and her brother, Kong Hao, could be heard clearly. Inside Yu Yu's house. Father asked you to come because of this? Yu Yu asked softly. Yes. Kong Hao replied. Father also said that the Sea clan's position in the entire Azure River County is incomparably high. No matter if it's the military officers, county governors, city lords, or even some fierce bandits, rich merchants, or even some dark gangs, all forces in the open or in the dark, they all have to submit to the Sea clan. The Sea clan is the sky of Azure River County. Whoever it says is guilty, that person is guilty. Even if they are not guilty, they are guilty. Kong Hao said, and Si Chin is the true pride of the Sea clan. He is only 20 years old this year, but he has already been a meteor mage for 2 years. He is doted on by the ancestors of the Sea clan. In the future, when he becomes a Silver Moon mage, his position will be even higher. Father said that you don't have to marry Dongbo Shuang. If you can marry Si Chin, that would be even better. He said that if our Kong clan and the Sea clan have a good relationship, we can really reach the heavens in a single step. Kong Hao said. Kong Hao immediately curled his lips. But big sister, I think father is too realistic. Anyway, I support big sister. Actually, you don't have to care about father. He's just saying it. After all, marrying that young master Si Chin isn't guaranteed. Humph. Yu Yu lightly sneered. Father has always been such a person. That was all she said and nothing more. Sigh. Father has given strict orders. These years, I have always wanted to get close to Dongbo Shuang. Yu Yu lightly sighed. Although I have tried very hard and he has also gotten closer to me, he still has not publicly announced that I am his girlfriend. He doesn't like you? Kong Hao asked. That's not it either. He has always been focused on spear arts. Apart from me and some of the maids in the castle, he hasn't even spoken to any other young girls. Yu Yu said, Dongbo Shuang is cold on the outside but warm on the inside. As long as he slowly gets used to it, I believe that with his temperament, he will marry me in the future. But being with him is really boring. Yu Yu shook her head. I'm afraid he hasn't realized it yet. He doesn't know how to coax people and he's not interesting at all. They're not even as good as the male disciples of the great mage's tower at coaxing others. Sis, you don't like Dongbo Shuang? Kong Hao was shocked. When I first came here when I was young, I admired him quite a lot. But after I learned magic from my teacher and understood the vastness of the world, I felt that he was just ordinary. He was just a martial arts madman who was obsessed with the spear. On the roof of the city tower, under the state of one with the heaven and man, even Kong Yu Yu's eyes and facial expressions were extremely clear to him. He could clearly feel the trace of disdain on the corner of her mouth when she called him a martial arts madman. Dongbo Shui Ying's face was slightly pale. Indeed, he did not like Kong Yu Yu that much. He did not have any passionate feelings for her, and he did not even intend to make it clear. After all, he might lose his life in the future bronze-level mission. But after 6 years of being together, humans are not cold-blooded animals, they would eventually develop some feelings. When he heard Kong Yu Yu's words, Dongbo Shuang could not believe it. She's actually this kind of person. His heart felt as if it was being pressed by a huge rock. It was very uncomfortable. He had actually been lied to all this time. It was ridiculous that he thought that Yu Yu had always been in love with him. If he wanted to marry her, it would be very simple and easy. But the truth was, Yu Yu had never really liked him. That's right. He had no interest and was always focusing on his spear skills. He did not know how to coax people. But why did you keep lying to me? Damn it, damn it, damn it. Dongbo Shui Ying's heart was burning. The 6 years of simple and honest feelings could not be considered as love, but it could be considered as friendship. But it was all a lie. So it was all a facade. She's actually this kind of person. Originally, Dongbo Shuang thought that Kong Yu was very obedient, but now he felt that she was disgusting. Yes. He did not have many friends and Kong Yu could be considered as a good friend. But she had always been deceiving him and even thought that he was just a martial arts fanatic. Why am I so angry? What's there to be angry about? I have never liked her so passionately, nor have I ever fallen for her. Dongbo Shuang laughed at himself, but no matter how he comforted himself, these 6 years of feelings were all lies, and it made him very uncomfortable. Kong Yu smiled. In comparison, this Si family's young master Si Qin is much smarter. Although he is a little silly, at least he knows how to coax people. Si Qin pursued you? Kong Hao stared. Yes, Kong Yu nodded lightly. Kong Yu indeed had the qualifications to attract people. She was quite beautiful and very obedient. In addition, she was used to seeing people's hearts since young, and had a very accurate grasp of it. After many days of subtle guidance, young Master Si Qin did indeed gradually notice Kong Yu, and began to pursue her. But Kong Yu always maintained a distance, trailing Si Qin. You like Si Qin? Kong Hao was surprised again. Kong Yu slightly paused, a little. How could it be? How could she fall in love with a man so easily? But she did feel that this Si Qin was a better prey than Dongbo Shuang. Younger, more handsome and most importantly, more promising. Compared to her, Shuang was like a wooden lump. He was not interesting at all. Furthermore, he did not have any feelings for her. He was too dull. Sister, what are you going to do? Kong Hao asked curiously. I haven't decided yet, let nature take its course slowly, Kong Yu said. She had already made her decision. But in front of her brother, some things had to be hidden. Otherwise, her brother would think that this sister was too ruthless, and that would not be good. Dongbo Shuang walked on the stone road in the castle, his whole body emitting a cold aura. Those servants did not dare to approach. They all felt that their lord was in a bad mood. Soon, Dongbo Shuang walked to the entrance of Kong Yu's courtyard. Ping. He pressed his hand on the courtyard door, and the door bolt was instantly broken. He directly pushed the door open. Who is it? Kong Yu's voice was still gentle and curious, only to see Kong Hao and Yu walking out of the house. Both of them saw Dongbo Shuang standing in the courtyard. Brother Snow Eagle. Yu shouted happily. But when Dongbo Shuang stood there, the surrounding atmosphere seemed to solidify, a sense of oppression spread out, causing Yu and Kong Hao to tremble. I never thought that you, Kong Yu, are such a person. Dongbo Shui Ying's voice was a little hoarse. I really don't know how to have fun. I am a martial arts madman who only knows how to practice spear skills. Kong Hao's eyes widened. Kong Yu's heart also turned cold. How did he know? But the words don't know how to have fun, and martial arts madman, meant that Dongbo Shuang knew about their conversation. There was no point in trying to cover it up. Brother Snow Eagle, I'm sorry, father forced me to do this. He forced me to do this. You said. I didn't want to do this. Dongbo Shuang just looked at her, coldly looking at her. Previously when he was in the one with the world state, he clearly remembered Kong Yu's expression when she said that he was a martial arts madman. This kind of expression she had never revealed it before, but under the one with the world state he saw it. At this moment, no matter how she pretended, he would never believe her. Being stared at by Dongbo Shuang, Kong Yu felt an invisible pressure, causing her heart to flutter. Her usually calm heart started to tremble. She was very smart and understood people's hearts, so she knew how to deal with any situation. But at this moment, being stared at by Dongbo Shuang made her flustered. What she didn't know was that this was actually a kind of spiritual pressure. After being in the one with the world state, Dongbo Shui Ying's spiritual strength was extremely strong. Being stared at by him, the pressure was no less than 10,000 people staring at one person at the same time. I'm leaving now. Yu didn't explain anymore, turned around and went into the house to pack up. Dongbo Shuang stood in the courtyard, silently. After a while he saw Yu and Kong Hao each carrying a box, quickly walking out of the courtyard. Miss Yu? The soldiers at the gate greeted them politely. Yu Yu forced a smile, brought her brother out of the castle, and walked towards the great mage's building. How did he find out? He actually found out that I was talking to my brother. Yu Yu turned around and looked at the Snow Rock Castle. She understood that it would be very difficult to enter this castle in the future. I haven't really made Si Chen loyal to me, it's not worth it to fall out with Dongbo Shuang now. Let's wait for a period of time until Si Chen's side is settled. Forget it, since it has already happened, it's useless to regret. He's just a martial arts fanatic, what's there to be proud of? He only has a bit of fame in this small place, Water Rights Town. In front of the Sea Clan, what is he? But it's still not bad, at least I got a staff and a mage robe from him. Yu Yu secretly thought. It's actually this kind of person, Dongbo Shuang, really have an ordinary eye for people. Dongbo Shuang leaped up to the roof of the castle and sat on the roof, overlooking the vast Snow Eagle territory. I still haven't interacted with enough people to actually be deceived like this. Forget it, it's also a kind of experience. Dongbo Shuang was originally a spear master, and the reason why he was able to achieve one with the world was because his spear mastery was high enough. He gradually understood the heaven and earth. His temperament was also as sharp as a spear. Cut the Gordian knot. Since this woman had deceived him, then he would just chase her out of Snow Rock Castle, and there would be no more entanglement. I am me. Maybe it's like father and mother. A love born between life and death, to be able to entrust each other with life and death, is more suitable for me? Dongbo Shuang suddenly laughed and raised his head to drink the wine. His spirit had been tempered to such a state, there was no such thing as an ordinary emotion that penetrated deep into his bones, so he could easily cut it off. And I have already achieved one with the world, which method is more suitable for me to become a transcendent? Dongbo Shuang began to think about the path to become a transcendent in the future. Becoming a transcendent was his goal. Chapter 56. Snow Rock Castle's Training Grounds. When Feishua's godly spear was executed, it naturally brought along snowflakes. In the surrounding snowflakes, there was a faint flicker of light. The black-robed Dongbo Shuang was currently executing his spear technique to his heart's content. His current spear technique was completely different from the floating snow spear technique. The floating snow spear technique was like a blossoming spear flower. At this moment, Dongbo Shuang's spear was retracted slightly after each thrust. The rotational force was much stronger. Furthermore, there was a large amount of heaven and earth energy gathered at the tip of the spear. The strong rotational force and the large amount of heaven and earth energy were being used as leverage. Just by retracting the spear slightly, he was able to thrust out a second time. Between the two spear tips, one could vaguely see the trajectory of the spear with the naked eye. Countless spear shadows, countless threads. It was like a light drizzle, connecting together to form threads. This was the second level of mysterious ice spear technique. Blood Rain. This technique seems to have utilized the heaven and earth energy to the extreme, reaching an unimaginable level. Using all the heaven and earth energy to increase my spear technique's speed. Dongbo Shuang exclaimed. The creator of this spear technique, Guyuan Han, had indeed pursued the spear technique's speed to an astonishing level. Although he was already one with the world, he had spent a total of 6 days just to learn this technique. If he were to create it himself, the requirements for his body's strength, the internal force of the spear technique, and the borrowing of the heaven and earth energy would be too high. Of course, this Ice Knight Guyuan Han had only decided to record down his spear technique when he stood at the peak of the transcendence and passed down his spear technique to his descendants. After learning the mysterious ice spear technique's Blood Rain, my spear technique's speed has increased. If I were to meet that god's envoy again, killing him would be much easier. Dongbo Shuang revealed a smile. With a spear technique that was fast enough, it would cause the enemy to have a hard time defending. It would be hard for the enemy to avoid revealing an opening, and he would be able to take the opportunity to kill him. Snow Eagle. A person walked in from outside the training grounds. It was Zhong Ling. Zhong Ling sighed and said, "Your spear art has long reached perfection, but you still practice it every day. It really makes me feel ashamed. I also have to put in more effort to practice. The more I practice my spear arts, the more I feel how insignificant I am." Dongbo Shuang raised his head and looked at the sky. Nature is full of mysteries. We're just mortals. The longer I practice my spear arts, the more confused I become. The profoundness of my spear arts. Compared to the profoundness of nature, the difference is too great. It's not even worth mentioning. Haha, that's enough. What nature? We can't even feel what you're talking about. Isn't that even more pitiful? Zhongling joked. Dongbo Shuang also smiled. He was only able to feel the profoundness of nature after achieving one with the world. His spirit could soar with the wind, soar with the flames, feel the heaviness of the earth and flow with the water. Because the more he felt it, the more he understood the profoundness of nature. His heart was filled with reverence. For example, his own spear arts. When he was defending, he could faintly feel the profoundness of water. However, when his spirit and water were completely fused together, he could feel the natural flow of water. Yet, he realized how simple and crude his spear arts were. It was like the difference between a child's scribbles and a real natural scene. Of course, without achieving one with the world, the feeling wouldn't be this intense. Uncle Zong. Dongbo Shuang asked curiously, why didn't I see Qing Shi today? He didn't even come back at noon? I heard from the soldiers that Qing Shi and his girlfriend brought some soldiers down the mountain early in the morning. They went to Water Rights Town to play. Zhong Ling's 6 arms held onto 6 scimitars as he started to perform a simple warm-up. Youngsters are really good. Oh. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Qing Shi and his girlfriend's relationship was really good. He didn't find it strange that they would go to Water Rights Town to play every few days. The sun was setting. A group of soldiers was waiting on the side of the road. Next to them, a young couple was leisurely taking a walk, admiring the beautiful flowers and plants. This young couple was Qing Shi and Ji Rong. This little flower is really beautiful. Here we can only see a little more flowers and plants in the summer. Normally it's very cold and even covered with snow. Ji Rong plucked a small yellow flower and inserted it into her hair. She turned her head to look at Qing Shi and smiled brilliantly. Is it beautiful? Beautiful. In the entire Water Rights Town, there aren't many beautiful women. Qing Shi also smiled. Although a few days ago, there was a trace of unhappiness between the two of them, Ji Rong didn't mention it again. Naturally, the relationship between the two of them gradually recovered. This time they went to Water Rights Town together, so their mood was extremely good. Your mouth is really sweet. Ji Rong teased. How come I didn't know that your mouth was so sweet? But speaking of beauties, Sister Yu is prettier than me. Oh right, I found out that Sister Yu hasn't been to the castle these days? What's wrong? Did something happen between her and your brother? Qing Shi nodded. I also found out that Sister Yu hasn't been to the castle. I asked brother, but he told me not to ask. He also said that Sister Yu will never return to the castle again. He also told me to keep a distance from her. It seems like they broke up. Ji Rong said. Maybe. Qing Shi smiled. Actually, my brother and Sister Yu have never started. Ji Rong smiled. She was a little proud and carefree. Among the female disciples under by Yuanji, although she was confident in her appearance and temperament, she was always suppressed by Yu. In fact, just based on appearance she was already very beautiful. Her eyes were even more attractive. It was just that her stature was a little small, but her body proportion was still very good, small and exquisite. Kong Yu, on the other hand, was slightly taller and more graceful. In addition, Kong Yu seemed to treat everyone very well, so many disciples liked her very much. In addition, she had an inexplicable relationship with Dongbo Shuang. Naturally, she became the leader amongst the female disciples. Da-da-da. The sound of heavy hooves could be heard on the road beside them. A group of dark red armored cavalrymen was advancing. The leader of the cavalry was a young man with triangular eyes dressed in a gorgeous white robe. He looked to his left and right with a spirited appearance. Brother Zhao, this Water Rights Town is really a remote place. Compared to our county city, it's so much worse. However, the 2 beauties sent by the Lord of Water Rights Town are not bad. The white-robed young man with triangular eyes laughed. Beside him was a grim gray-robed knight. Young master, you have played enough. When you enter the army, you will have to obediently follow the rules. In other places he can protect you. But in the army you are not allowed to mess around. Don't worry, once I enter the army I will definitely not mess around. The white-robed young man with triangular eyes said. Suddenly his eyes lit up. Looking at Ji Rong, who was together with Dongbo and Qing Shi, he couldn't help but drool. Brother Zhao, look, she is quite a beautiful girl. She has a taste. Ji Rong was only 16 years old. She was slightly immature, but her figure was already quite good. As a female mage, her temperament was not something an ordinary girl could compare with. She wore a small wildflower on her head. This made the white-robed young man's heart itch. The number of female mages was very small. Beautiful female mages were even rarer. They were chased by some rich and noble children. Hey girl. The white-robed young man with triangular eyes shouted. The treading on snow horse immediately went out of the official road. He approached them and said with a smile, "Brother will play with you, okay? The silly boy beside you is too young. He doesn't know the taste of a beauty. Brother will let you understand." Qin Shi and Ji Rong's complexion slightly changed. The soldiers of Snow Eagle territory were even more furious. Many of them even took out the star-breaking crossbows from their backs. "Who are you?" Qin Shi coldly shouted. At least in Water Rights Town, no one dared to provoke him. "Young master." The gray-robed knight recognized the insignia on the armors of these soldiers. He rode his horse closer and whispered, "This is Water Rights Town's Snow Eagle Territory's people. The leader of Snow Eagle Territory, Dongbu Shuiying. When he was 15 years old, he went to the mountain range of Desolation and killed the Silver Moon Wolf King. Now he should be a Silver Moon Knight. We are not far from the army. Let's not cause any trouble." Snow Eagle Territory, Dongbu Shuiying? The white-robed young man with triangular eyes frowned. If this was Azure River County, he wouldn't care about a mere Dongbu Shuiying. His family in Azure River County had a lot of power. Although he had to listen to the Sea family, he was still quite powerful. But in any case, they were still quite powerful, and they looked down on the families of these remote small cities. But this time he only brought a small escort team. The leader of the escort team was a meteor knight. Facing the Snow Eagle territory, it was still somewhat difficult. In his heart, he had already given up, but the white-robed young man with triangular eyes was not willing to back down. He sneered, "Who am I? Humph, a remote family like yours doesn't have the qualifications to know." "You heard it clearly," Ji Rong, who was standing beside Qin Shi, said angrily. "He is the Snow Eagle Territory's Dongbu Qin Shi. His brother is the Snow Eagle Territory's leader, Dongbu Shuiying. You actually dared to tease me. Qin Shi, did you not react at all? Did you just let him tease me?" Apologize to her. How could Qin Shi lose face in front of his girlfriend? He immediately shouted, "Otherwise, don't even think of leaving Water Rights Town. Yo-yo, you're really strong." The white-robed young man with triangular eyes, who had originally planned to give up, was already used to being arrogant. At this moment, his anger flared up. His eyes flashed with a cold light. "A small family in a remote area dares to be arrogant in front of me? You really overestimate yourself. Go kill all the men and take that little beauty away." He steeled his heart. After killing them, he will directly go to the army. By the time that Dongbu Shuiying finds out, it will be too late. Yes. The group of dark red armored soldiers behind him, who were already used to killing, immediately complied. "You dare?" Qin Shi was shocked. "Just admitting a mistake and you want to kill them? Go." The gray-robed knight frowned, but he still leapt down from his horse. A layer of green do qi appeared on the surface of his body as he charged forward at an extremely fast speed. Seeing this scene, the soldiers of the Snow Eagle territory were shocked. A meteor knight? The Snow Eagle territory soldiers holding the star-breaking crossbows all panicked. The star-breaking crossbows could indeed threaten a meteor knight. However, it usually required over 100 star-breaking crossbows to surround and attack at the same time. Otherwise, with the meteor knight's speed, it would be very difficult for them to aim accurately. Quickly disperse, and attack that white-robed man. The soldiers were very experienced, and one by one they quickly began to disperse. Kill. The soldiers in dark red armor all rushed out. The white-robed youth in the distance flipped his hand, and a shield appeared in front of him. With a shield he was hiding far away. He wasn't afraid of the star-breaking crossbows at all. He sneered as he looked at everything. "Brat, you dare to be arrogant with me? You really are courting death." The meteor knight was simply killing ordinary soldiers. In an instant, one of the Snow Eagle territory soldiers who tried to disperse was killed with a single slash. Even more dark red armored soldiers directly charged towards Dongbu Qin Shi. Qin Shi had never encountered anything like this before, and he was panicking. His magic equipment spells were simply unable to defeat so many people at the same time, especially when there was a meteor knight among them. With a flip of his hand, a magic scroll appeared. It was one of the many magic scrolls that Dongbu Shuiying had given him. It was a level 5 magic scroll. Chapter 57. Not good. The gray-robed meteor knight saw the young man throw out the scroll and felt an indescribable fear. The young man stared at him. Obviously, the main target of this powerful spell was this meteor knight. Boom, 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 boom. Huge bolts of green lightning appeared out of nowhere and struck the ground like giant trees. These densely packed thunderbolts, a total of 8 of them, twisted and struck the meteor knight's body at the same time. That gray-robed knight was unable to dodge at all. With a boom, his entire body was instantly turned into charcoal. Even a Silver Moon mage had to spend a lot of time chanting the incantation to cast this powerful spell of the 5th rank. The power of this spell was unimaginable. No. The white-robed, triangular-eyed young man who was hiding at the back and holding a shield widened his eyes in fear. Boom. His entire body was instantly shattered. He was too weak and couldn't withstand it. These huge green thunderbolts struck down like trees. There were a total of 99 thunderbolts. This was the spell of the 5th rank. Lightning Forest. With Qing Shi's guidance ability, he could only barely focus on the meteor knight. As for the other thunderbolt trees, he couldn't precisely guide them. He could only try his best to direct the thunderbolts in other directions so as not to harm the soldiers of the Snow Eagle army. Therefore, one of the thunderbolt trees just so happened to strike the triangular-eyed young man. This was his bad luck. Many of the soldiers in dark red armor were also affected. Naturally, they died instantly after being affected by the spell of the 5th rank. The soldiers of the Snow Eagle army were already spread out. They were few in number and Qing Shi controlled the lightning forest to avoid them. Therefore, not a single one of them was struck. Run. Quick, run. The 20 or so soldiers who were lucky enough to escape from the lightning forest were all terrified. They all rode their horses and quickly ran away. Shio. 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 The soldiers of the Snow Eagle army immediately chased after them with the star-shattering crossbows. Are you all right? Qing Shi held his girlfriend's hand. Ji-Rong was also frightened. Almost. Fortunately, Qing Shi, you have a powerful spell scroll. This is a life-saving item my brother gave me. Qing Shi did not elaborate further because Dongbu Shuiying had strictly forbidden him from leaking the information. Today he was forced into a corner and had no other choice. Very soon, the pursuing soldiers of Snow Eagle territory retreated. Young Master Qing Shi, more of their soldiers escaped. Since it's troublesome to load the star-shattering crossbows, 16 of them escaped. Immediately, one of the team leaders hastily reported. Clean this place up. We're going back to Snow Rock Castle, Qing Shi said, feeling somewhat uneasy. In the evening. At the entrance of the castle, Dongbu Shuiying, Zhongling, Tong San and the others were gathered here after receiving the message from their servants. The drawbridge was slowly lowered and the castle gates were opening. Outside the city gate was Qing Shi's group. They had also returned with some corpses. I will return to the Great Master's building first, Ji-Rong said in a low voice. Yes. Qing Shi nodded. The door opened. Qing Shi walked up to Dongbu Shuiying and bowed his head. Brother. Go back and rest first. We'll talk about it later tonight. Dongbu Shuiying did not blame him. He could see that his younger brother was somewhat flustered. Qing Shi nodded lightly and immediately entered the castle. You follow me. Dongbu Shuiying glanced at the team leader. The team leader immediately followed respectfully. A group of people walked inside the castle. What happened? Dongbu Shuiying asked. Beside him, Zhongling and Tong San were also listening. Sir Lord, today we were escorting the young master and Miss Ji-Rong to Water Rights Town as usual. Team leader Wu began to narrate the entire process in detail. When he finished, he sighed. Fortunately, young master Qing Shi cast a spell. Otherwise, more than 2 of our brothers would have died. The gray-cloaked knight was too fast. Before the Thunder Forest spell struck, he had already killed 2 Snow Eagle soldiers. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. The compensation for the soldiers who died will be doubled. The castle will continue to provide for their families. The other soldiers will receive 10 silver coins each. Thank you, Sir Lord. Team leader Wu said gratefully. Do you recognize the young master in white? Dongbu Shuiying asked. I don't recognize him. From his tone, he doesn't seem to be from Water Rights Town. Team leader Wu said. Dongbu Shuiying furrowed his brows. This was a bit troublesome. His younger brother had killed a noble. This was not a big matter, but it was not a small matter either. Even from the perspective of the Empire's laws, the other party attacked first. His younger brother was retaliating. If the other party was only an ordinary noble, then it would be fine. However, if they were from a large family, then this matter would not be resolved so easily. It was very likely that there would be trouble. Since Snow Eagle is not from Water Rights Town, then it will be troublesome to investigate. The entire Azure River County is too big. There are so many noble families. Who knows which one he is from? Zhong Ling was also worried. Do you have their corpses? Dongbua Shuang asked. Yes, we brought them back. However, the young master in white was directly destroyed by the Thunder Forest spell. The Meteor Knight's corpse is still there, but because he was struck by several Thunder Forest spells at the same time, he was burnt to a crisp. We can't even see his face anymore. Team leader Wu said. Are there any survivors? Dongbua Shuang asked. At that time, our brothers were very angry and did not show any mercy. Moreover, almost all of them were shot by the star-breaking crossbows. Those people died almost instantly. The two heavily injured ones were also killed by our angry brothers. Team leader Wu said helplessly. Not a single survivor. Dongbua Shuiying's eyebrows showed a trace of killing intent. It would be troublesome to find out the other party's identity. Who cares? Looking at the entire Azure River County, his younger brother was clearly retaliating. In the dark. Even if it was the strongest person in Azure River County, Si Liang Hong, or even the extremely terrifying Xiang Pang Yun, Dongbua Shuiying was not afraid of them. Moreover, Dongbua Shuiying felt that the background of the noble young master who was killed was not too exaggerated. Investigate. Dongbua Shuiying ordered. Investigate from the corpses and see if you can find any clues to find out their identities. I will arrange it now, Zhong Ling said. He was very meticulous and did things properly. 6 hours is enough. If you can't find anything, we can only ask the Dragon Mountain Manor to investigate, Dongbua Shuiying said. The 3rd Division that was stationed in Azure River County was at the edge of the mountain range of Desolation. Normally, the city guards in Azure River County. These local troops were all controlled by the Sea Clan. However, the troops stationed around the mountain range of Desolation were directly under the Empire. They were the Empire's army and were even more powerful and mysterious. The Sea Clan could only rely on their connections to slightly influence the Empire's army in their own territory. However, they were unable to truly control them. Moreover, the Empire's army had a very strong background. Normally, when a large number of troops entered the mountain range of Desolation, there would be transcendence behind them. The 3rd Division in a rather spacious room. Second Master. Young Master is dead. A group of soldiers stood in a sorry state. Sitting there was a one-eyed officer. The one-eyed officer's face was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. He gritted his teeth and said, Young Master is actually dead? You're all trash. My elder brother will definitely go crazy, definitely. Tell me who did it and how did he die? Yes. The soldiers quickly explained everything. The one-eyed officer's face twitched as he listened. He was able to become a supervisor in the 3rd Division's logistics department because his elder brother had spent a lot of money and connections. His elder brother was a very crazy person. In the entire Azure River County, everyone said that he was a loyal dog of the Sea Clan. But why did they use the word dog to describe him? It was because his elder brother was very crazy and would often do crazy things. The dead young Master Cui Hu was his elder brother's only son. Snow Eagle leader, Dongbua Shuiying's younger brother? Dongbua Qingshi? The one-eyed officer gritted his teeth and said, How dare they kill my Cui clan's people? Dongbua Qingshi must die. His elder brother must die too. The entire Snow Eagle leader must be buried with him. These soldiers originally only knew that he was from the Snow Eagle leader. It was Ji Rong who shouted out that he was Dongbua Qingshi, Dongbua Shuiying's younger brother, and threatened him. These ordinary soldiers naturally knew the details of the other party's identity. I have to inform elder brother as soon as possible. The one-eyed officer did not hesitate and immediately stood up. He used the Empire's army's communication system to send the news to Azure River County. As the person in charge of logistics, it was very easy for him to contact his family. About 10 li away from the 3rd Division on a tall mountain, a cute little wolf that was snow-white in color but had 4 pitch-black hooves, surrounded by a faint aura of darkness, was looking at the camp of the 3rd Regiment in the distance. This little wolf looked like it was only a few months old and was still very young. However, its eyes were filled with sadness and endless hatred. Not long after it was born, its mother was killed by humans. And just a moment ago, its father was also killed and brought to the encampment by the soldiers. It used its innate ability to secretly follow them, but now it did not dare to do so. In the future, it would be the encampment of the human army. Child. A gentle voice sounded. Beside it, The dark energy gathered and quickly condensed into a black-robed, white-haired old man. His eyes were filled with love. Do you hate humans? The little wolf looked at the old man and felt a sense of familiarity. It let out a low growl. Of course it hated. Your parents are only ordinary magical beasts. However, you have extraordinary power. However, this power needs to be fully controlled. Only then will you have the chance to take revenge on the humans. The black-robed old man extended his hand and a strange white bone scepter appeared. I will give you this chance. Wang, a stream of blood-red light flew out from the white bone scepter and enveloped the wolf cub's body. The wolf cub's body began to change under the blood-red light. Gradually it began to stand upright. Its fur disappeared, its 4 paws turned into 4 limbs, and its head turned into a human's. In just a moment, a 5 or 6-year-old naked human child stood there. This is your human body. It is a real human body. Humans will not be able to find any flaws. The black-robed old man said, only when you truly enter the human world will you be able to take revenge on them. Let's go. Before entering the human world, you will follow me for 10 years. You can call me? Father. Yes, Father. The human child stuttered, but it still spoke clearly. How extraordinary. You can speak as soon as you transform into a human. The black-robed old man revealed a hint of a smile. Let's go. A patch of darkness enveloped the old man and the child. And then they disappeared into thin air. Chapter 58. Night within the Azure River County, in a luxurious mansion that occupied an area of more than a mile. A large number of tyrannical guards were patrolling the surroundings of the mansion. Even within the mansion there were teams of guards. The security was extremely tight. This was because the owner of this mansion, Cui Jinpeng, was the boss of the entire Azure River County's underworld. All sorts of dark and dirty things were under his control. He was also a loyal dog of the Sea clan. Many people wanted to replace his position, wanting to become the boss of the underworld. Thus, killing and fighting were common occurrences. The breathing of the servants in the mansion was very low, suppressing their breaths. Only when they could not bear it anymore would they slowly take a deep breath. Many of their backs were drenched in sweat. This was because tonight, their master had already killed a total of 12 servants. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. In the luxurious main hall, a golden-robed Cui Jinpeng was pacing back and forth. His eyes were filled with endless anger. Everyone else in the main hall had retreated and were waiting outside. Where? Cui Jinpeng's heart was trembling. He was cruel, he was crazy. He was born in the slums. His mother was a prostitute and he had no father. His mother did not care about his life or death. Ever since he was young he was like a wild dog climbing up step by step. He stepped on the corpses and blood of countless people to climb up. In this underworld he reached an extremely high position. He was even recognized by the uncrowned emperor of the Azure River County, Si Lianghong. Walking in the dark for so many years, he could be said to have committed all sorts of crimes. However, the one he doted on the most was still his only son. He had prepared everything for his son. If his son wanted a beautiful woman, he, as his father, would personally capture one and give it to his son. Perhaps because he pampered his son too much, or perhaps because he was not good at teaching his son became more and more domineering. Cui Jinpeng could no longer protect his son, so he sent him to the army to temper himself. Who would have thought he actually died? Where, my Huer? If you die, how will I live? Cui Jinpeng's face was full of tears. At this moment, this crazy underground tyrant was incomparably pained. I want them to die. I want them to be buried with you. The Snow Eagle Territory's Dongbua family. That damn Dongbua Qingshi and his brother Dongbua Shuang, and all the people in the castle, I want them to be buried with you. Cui Jinpeng's eyes were filled with endless madness. I want them to be buried with me. Big brother. A person rushed in from outside. It was an orc man with a face and body covered in fur. He had a pair of green eyes and it was obvious that he was a werewolf. This person was the second in command of their gang, and he was also an extremely powerful Silver Moon Knight. His big brother was called Mad Dog by some enemies and he was called Wild Wolf. Big bro, just say the word and we'll kill our way over, the werewolf growled malevolently. Are we confident in killing our way over? No. Cui Jinpeng's face was ferocious. Didn't you hear the news? Huer and Zhao Lao Wu were killed by a spell scroll. Even a meteor knight couldn't withstand the spell and died instantly. That must be a rank 5 spell. That Dongbua Shuiying should be a Silver Moon Knight. He is in his castle, and our gang only has 3 Silver Moon Knights. Do we have the confidence to kill them? That's their lair. Then what should we do? The werewolf was anxious. Bounty. Chui Jinping's face was ice cold. Bloodshed Tavern. Bloodshed Tavern? The werewolf was shocked. Bloodshed Tavern was an incomparably ancient power. Its existence was almost the same as the history of the entire plane of existence. The bounty was set by the Bloodshed Tavern. Moreover, the Bloodshed Tavern would take 80% of the bounty, and the remaining 20% was the real bounty for the assassins. Therefore, the bounty was usually very exaggerated. Then the bounty will be very, very high. The werewolf couldn't help but say, I want them to die. I want the entire Dongbua family to die. As long as they die, I will pay any price. Chui Jinping clenched his teeth. This news was sent by my second brother through the Empire's army. I have to hurry. Once that Dongbua Shuiying finds out that he is my son, he might make the first move. Yes. The werewolf nodded. They had been in the underground world for a long time, so they understood the principle of making the first move. Pass down my order. Do not leak the news of my son's death. Lock up all the servants who know about it. Chui Jinping said coldly, wait until the entire Dongbua family is dead, then let them go. I will set off now to the Bloodshed Tavern. Since he had already made his move, he couldn't give the opponent any chance to retaliate. Night, Bloodshed Tavern. This was a rather lively tavern. Many adventurers and other people who lived on the edge of a knife hung around here. Even the rich and powerful nobles didn't dare to be impudent here. Because the people here were all people who put their lives on the line. Who cared about your identity. If you killed them, these people would immediately escape. Moreover, many of the assassins were roaming around. Even if you killed them, it would be very difficult to find out their identity. Upstairs. There was a side door in the tavern. Only those who could directly issue or accept a mission could go up. Chui Jinping, who was wrapped in a black robe, took out a bloodshed order. One must know that not everyone had the qualifications to issue and accept missions. Either the Bloodshed Order or the Black Iron Order or Bronze Order issued by the Dragon Mountain Manor could prove one's strength and identity. On the second floor of the tavern. It was very quiet. Although there were a few people here, all of them were either hiding their identities or wearing masks. Obviously, there were very few assassins who were willing to reveal their identity. Like the #1 expert in the entire Azure River County, Xiang Pangyun, there were very few who would be so ostentatious. After all, Xiang Pangyun's strength was too great. If he was willing to establish a clan, then the entire Azure River County Sea Clan's position would be shaken. I want a bounty. Chui Jinping entered a room and sat down. Opposite him sat a purple-robed woman. Please speak. The purple-robed woman smiled. I want to kill the Water Rights Town's Snow Eagle Territories Dongbua clan. I want the entire Dongbua clan Snow Rock Castle to die. Especially the 2 brothers Dongbua Qingshi and Dongbua Shuiying. They must die. Chui Jinping's voice was filled with killing intent. Sure, please wait a moment. We need to calculate the bounty. The purple-robed woman said. Killing? Even if it was killing Transcendence, the Bloodshed Tavern would still accept it. As long as you can afford it. Chui Jinping endured and waited. His eyes flashed with killing intent. He really couldn't bear it anymore. He wanted to eradicate the entire Dongbua clan as soon as possible to avenge his son. At this moment, the purple-robed woman looked at the crystal ball in her hand. On the crystal ball, some words appeared. The purple-robed woman nodded and said, to destroy the Water Rights Town's Dongbua clan, you need 3 million gold coins. 3 million? Chui Jinping fiercely stood up. How can it be so high? This is crazy. That Dongbua Shuiying is just a Silver Moon Knight. To destroy such a clan you need 3 million gold coins? Even if your Bloodshed Tavern takes 80% of the bounty, the remaining 20% is still a total of 600,000 gold coins. Do you really need that much to destroy their clan? What kind of assassin would need such a price? The Bloodshed Tavern's pricing was very strict. Even though the Dragon Mountain Manor's information on Dongbua Shuiying was confidential. But the Bloodshed Tavern's information on Dongbua Shuiying was that he killed a Silver Moon Wolf King and a Shadow Leopard at the age of 15. Even though killing the Shadow Leopard was a secret and was sold in secret, the Bloodshed Tavern and Dragon Mountain Manor were still able to find out about it. The Bloodshed Tavern believed that Dongbua Shuiying was a Silver Moon Knight at the age of 15. Furthermore, he had spent more than 500,000 gold coins. To dare to spend so extravagantly, How could one not have a few million gold coins? The Bloodshed Tavern believed that there was a 30% chance that Dongbu Shuang was already a legend ranker. Therefore they set such a price. If it was 100% confirmed, the price would be doubled. This. Cui Jinping did not dare to believe it. This price was too high. A normal legend ranker's clan would only have 2 to 3 million gold coins. In other words, a normal legend ranker would not be able to afford it even if they sold their entire clan's fortune. Although Cui Jinping was the leader of the underground world, he still had the Sea clan above him. After saving for so many years, he barely had 1 million gold coins. Our Bloodshed Tavern's price is non-negotiable. If you cannot afford it, please leave. The purple-robed woman said indifferently. Chapter 59. Cui Jinping's face darkened. In front of the Bloodshed Tavern, no one dared to put on airs. Even the emperor who united the world and established the Dragon Mountain Empire as a god, still maintained the position of the Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God. But 3 million gold coins, he really could not afford it. Was he not going to take revenge? Even if he died, he would not accept it. I will change the mission. Cui Jinping clenched his teeth. Forget about the others, I only want the murderer, Dongbu Qingshi, dead. Murderer? The purple-robed lady's eyebrows moved as she looked at Cui Jinping. But according to the rules of the Bloodshed Tavern, she would not ask or leak the information. Yes, the murderer. Cui Jinping also believed in the reputation of the Bloodshed Tavern. He clenched his teeth. I want this damned murderer dead. His name is Dongbu Qingshi. Tell me, how much does it cost to kill such a mage? Oh right, we need to act quickly. I am worried that Dongbu Shuang will find out the truth, and then there will be many twists and turns. Please believe in the speed of the Bloodshed Tavern. The purple-robed lady smiled. Please wait for a moment, the price of the murderer Dongbu Qingshi will be out soon. The purple-robed lady looked at the crystal ball on the table in front of her. In one day, kill the murderer Dongbu Qingshi and it will cost 1 million gold coins. The purple-robed lady said. 1 million gold coins? He is just a normal mage, not even an earth-rank mage. Cui Jinping stared. As long as we send a powerful assassin to assassinate him, it will be easy. Snowrock Castle must be heavily guarded now. That Dongbu Qingshi will probably stay in the castle for a while. The purple-robed lady said, if you give us 1 year, I am afraid this mission will only cost 100,000 gold coins. But if you want to complete it in 1 day, we still need to send the mission to the killer, and the killer still needs to prepare and rush over. It is too short. I am afraid that he will have to face the obstruction of other people in Snowrock Castle. The purple-robed lady smiled. Cui Jinping clenched his teeth. The price of the Bloodshed Tavern could not be negotiated. Either he put down the bounty or get lost. Good. Cui Jinping's expression was ferocious. Hurry up and finish this as soon as possible. Pay up. The violet-robed woman looked at him. Although Cui Jinping was extremely distressed, the pain of losing his son had long since driven him crazy. He was willing to do anything. With a flip of his hand, he took out a large stack of gold notes. This stack of gold notes was exactly 1 million gold notes. In the past, he liked to take them out and count them when he had nothing to do. It was extremely refreshing. This was all he had accumulated after struggling in the underground world for so many years. It was a pleasure. The purple-robed woman smiled and said, we will immediately arrange for suitable assassins. Yes. Cui Jinping nodded, his eyes burning with hatred. He could almost see the death of that Dongbu Qingshi. He trusted the strength of the Bloodshed Tavern. The missions accepted by the Bloodshed Tavern would usually be completed, unless there was an extremely special situation. For example, the mission was to kill a legend ranker, but it was actually a transcendent. The Bloodshed Tavern would temporarily cancel the mission and request a price increase. There will be no refunds. This was the rule of the Bloodshed Tavern. If you couldn't accept it, then don't come. In fact, the Bloodshed Tavern already had a good reputation. In the same night, the Bloodshed Tavern used its own secret information channel to quickly notify the 3 terrifying assassins in the Azure River County. The mission was very urgent, and they had to respond within 2 hours. If they didn't accept it, then the Bloodshed Tavern would immediately notify other powerful assassins in the other counties. This mission was because of the obstruction of Dongbu Shuang, and Dongbu Shuang might be a legend ranker. Therefore, those who accepted this mission were all legend rankers. Because there was no need to kill Dongbu Shuang, the price was 1 million gold coins. If they wanted to kill Dongbu Shuang, There was only one assassin in the entire Azure River County who had the qualifications to accept this mission, Xiang Pangyun. He was the strongest existence in the entire Azure River County. He possessed absolute strength and could kill an ordinary legend ranker in a single move. His strength caused people to tremble. Even Si Liang Hong, the old witch who had transformed into a blood demon and lived for hundreds of years, was ranked below Xiang Pangyun in the Dragon Mountain list. The ranking of the Dragon Mountain list was very precise. Very quickly the assassin was confirmed. He was an extremely powerful assassin, codenamed Wind Demon. In an ordinary-looking but slightly spacious courtyard in the county city, it was brightly lit. 5 figures were gathered together, sitting and chatting. "Big brother, I will bring third brother and the others over." A skinny man wearing a silver-gray soft armor with a strange bronze breastplate on his chest, with half of his face covered by a silver-gray mask, sat at the side and advised, "This kind of small assassination mission is too easy. Although the information said that Dongbua Shuang might be a legend ranker, haha, he is only 22 years old. A 22 years old legend ranker? How is that possible? Even if he really is one, he can't do anything to me." The skinny man grinned, "Big brother, you don't have to come out." He was Wind Demon, a terrifying assassin with the combat strength of a legend ranker. "That's right, big brother. Furthermore, the 3 of us will help." A white-haired mage also advised. As a Silver Moon mage, they were all extremely arrogant. But in front of their big brother, no one dared to be arrogant. Sitting at the head of the table was a sturdy man wearing a loose dark red robe. His robe was loose, slightly exposing part of his chest. His height was only about 1.9 meters. Although he was considered strong, he was far from being comparable to the god's messenger that Dongbua Shuang had met before. That god's messenger had a monstrous body. But in terms of pressure, this sturdy man sitting there gave off an invisible pressure that was much stronger than the god's messenger from before. That god's messenger was like a little kitten, while this sturdy man was like a peerless beast. His baleful aura was incomparably heavy. His baleful aura was forged from killing after killing. Assassins usually hid their identity, but he didn't care about revealing his identity. Because he had accepted the Bloodshed Tavern's missions, nobody could find trouble with him. Wind Demon was also a powerful expert, but in front of his big brother, he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. That old witch Si Liang Hong has always been hiding. I wanted to play with her, but she refused to come out. It's been a while since I've moved my bones and muscles, so I'm itching. This time I'll go with you to take a look. If the mission is easy, you guys can solve it. If that Dongbua Shuang is really a legend ranker, then I'll have a plaything." This sturdy man laughed casually. Both his eyes were suffused with a blood-red color. This was the result of his cultivation of Doqi. He was the #1 expert in the entire Azure River County, and also the most terrifying assassin. Xiang Pangyun. All right. Since Big Brother wants to go, then let's go. This mission is actually very easy. I don't think Big Brother will even need to take action." Wind Demon laughed and teased. "Since it's decided, we'll set off for Water Rights Town's Snow Eagle territory tomorrow morning." Xiang Pangyun immediately stood up and ordered. "Yes." Wind Demon and the other 3 replied. Chapter 60. The next morning. A 30-meter-long black refiner flying ship rose into the sky and flew into the clouds. Then it flew at high speed towards Water Rights Town. On the flying ship, besides the 2 servants who were responsible for driving the ship, there were also 5 people, including Xiang Pangyun. Xiang Pangyun casually sat on the deck of the flying ship and looked at the misty surroundings. He could even see through the clouds to the vast land below. Dongbua Shuang, 22 years old? Xiang Pangyun's mouth curled into a strange smile. If he is a legend ranker, such a young legend ranker would be a rare plaything. Snow Eagle territory. At the peak of Snow Rock Mountain, near the cliff outside the castle, a black-haired youth was standing alone. Just by standing there, ordinary soldiers could feel a faint pressure. Normally, Dongbua Shuang would deliberately hide it, but at this moment he was not in a good mood. Naturally, the aura he emitted was enough to make ordinary people feel oppressed. Horse hooves galloped as 3 knights galloped over from the mountain road. "They're here." Dongbua Shuang looked at them. The 3 knights also saw their lord waiting for them outside the castle. The leading knight jumped down from his horse and handed it over to his companion. Then he galloped towards Dongbua Shuang. "My lord." The knight respectfully greeted. "Is there news from Manor Lord Xian?" Dongbua Shuang asked. Manor Lord Xian said that in the entire water rights town, there was no news of a noble young master suddenly dying. He has already reported the news to the Azure River County's Dragon Mountain Manor. I believe there will be news within 3 days. The knight respectfully replied. Dongbo Shuang frowned. Just as he had expected, Lord Xian was only in charge of Water Rights Town. He had previously sent someone to inform him to investigate as soon as possible. His subordinates were also waiting for news. But in the end, Lord Xian couldn't find anything and had to report it. 3 days. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. I hope there won't be any problems. No matter who it is, they can forget about hurting Stone. She had been taking care of her younger brother since he was a baby. The brotherly bond had long since seeped into their bones. For the sake of his younger brother, he had entered the Desolation Mountain Range without hesitation. In the past, he didn't quite understand why some people would risk their lives for others. But to take care of his little brother, to see his little brother waddling around and calling him Big Brother behind his back, to see his little brother hugging his thigh and shouting Big Brother, when he was young, to see his little brother obediently bowing his head in front of him and listening to his scolding. He also understood that when feelings were deep enough they could transcend life and death. This was how he treated his younger brother. Sir Lord, this is from Manor Lord Xian. The knight respectfully took out a scroll from his bosom. Dongbo Shuang took the scroll and walked into the castle. The soldiers at the city gate saluted respectfully. Spread my order, Qing Shi is not allowed to leave the castle for the next 3 days. Dongbo Shuang ordered. Yes, my lord. All the soldiers respectfully replied. As for whether or not her brother would be released after 3 days, it would depend on whether the trouble this time was solved. Walking in the castle, Dongbo Shuang flipped through the scroll in his hands. Dongbo Shuang frowned. Little brother's girlfriend Ji Rong? Previously he had asked the Dragon Mountain Manor to investigate everything about Ji Rong. This time the identity of the noble young master was not found, but Manor Lord Xian had sent him the information about Ji Rong. Oh, Dongbo Shuang read. Ji Rong's father Ji Wuhai worked hard for his family when he was young. After 20 years of hard work, he managed to build a big business for the family. He also married and had a daughter, Ji Rong. When Ji Rong was very young, she lived a very wealthy life. Later on, her uncle who was in charge of the family fell out and kicked Ji Rong's family out. Ji Rong's parents lived miserably in Ji Rong's mother's family, Yen family. In the Yen family they were looked down upon. Ji Rong's childhood was very pitiful and her father drowned his sorrows in alcohol. When Ji Rong was 9 years old, her father Ji Wuhai woke up and went out to work hard. In just 1 year he became rich. After returning to Water Rights Town, their family started to prosper. Yen family and the Ji family that was previously under her uncle's control were quickly destroyed. Dongbo Shuang flipped through the file. The file was very detailed. There were many other things that were described. After a detailed investigation, according to the clues, Ji Wuhai is suspected to be a believer of some evil god. His wife and daughter might also be a believer of an evil god. The exact evidence still needs to be investigated. Dongbo Shuiying's pupils shrank when he saw this. Believer of an evil god? Dragon Mountain Manor had always spared no effort in tracking down evil gods and demons. If they really found out the truth, they would probably take action immediately. Actually, before this, the Dragon Mountain Manor hadn't discovered any problems with Ji Wuhai. It was only after Shuiying asked them to help investigate the matter of his little brother's girlfriend that the Dragon Mountain Manor used the highest level of investigation to investigate Ji Wuhai's family. With this kind of incomparably detailed investigation, they immediately discovered a few problems. However, it was only a suspicion and there was not enough evidence. Dongbo Shuiying carefully looked at the file. There were many other facts recorded at the back, which were the basis for Dragon Mountain Manor's deductions. Even if he isn't a believer of an evil god, this Ji Wuhai is also a hypocritical and cruel person. Dongbo Shuiying was secretly shocked. Ji Wuhai had suffered at the hands of his big brother and was kicked out of the house. He was also looked down upon by his wife's family. However, his revenge was too ruthless and extremely secretive. Even Dragon Mountain Manor did not have the slightest bit of information. It was only after a detailed investigation that they discovered it. A beggar child was beaten to death by Ji Rong's servant just because he ran into her? Some of the information that he had found out. This proved that, not only was Ji Wuhai a hypocritical and cruel person, even his wife and daughter had a cruel side to them. They just disguised it very well. However, Dragon Mountain Manor wanted to investigate. They even found out about the death of a beggar. No. This kind of woman cannot be together with Qing Shi. Dongbo Shuiying immediately made a decision. A scheming woman who was good at disguising herself and was cruel to the bones. Compared to her, his younger brother was too young and innocent. Even if he was played to death, he would still have to thank her. Afternoon. Dongbo Shuiying was sitting on the roof of the main building of the castle. His soul had completely fused with the heaven and earth, feeling the mysteries of the world. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the castle's gate. Is it Miss Ji? Please come in. The castle guards did not stop her. Ji Rong entered the castle. Ji Rong smiled sweetly as she entered the castle. She had some doubts in her heart. Usually, during the day, Dongbo Qing Shi would come to look for her. Why didn't he come to look for her today? Was it because of the conflict with that noble young master? Ji Rong still decided to visit him to let Qing Shi feel her concern for him. Ji Rong. In a corridor, a black-clothed Dongbo Shuiying was standing there. Ji Rong was startled. She immediately called out, "Big brother Snow Eagle. Do you still remember the little beggar who died 6 years ago?" Dongbo Shuiying said coldly. Ji Rong's heart trembled. How did he know? There were very few people who knew about this. Big brother Snow Eagle. Ji Rong raised her head and looked at Dongbo Shuiying. However, when she saw Dongbo Shuiying's cold and sharp eyes, she felt her heart tremble. How strong was the soul force of an expert who was one with the world? Being stared at by him was like an ant being stared at by a dragon. This was an instinctive fear of life. Ji Rong panicked even more. I don't care about your matters, but you better get out of my little brother's side obediently. Dongbo Shuiying said, I'll give you 3 days to finish everything. I believe that you have the means to end your relationship with my little brother perfectly. You better listen to me obediently. If you dare to go against me, I will do something much more terrifying than you can imagine. Dongbo Shuiying said coldly. Under the pressure of the soul force, Ji Rong felt terrified. Under Dongbo Shuiying's threat, she was even forced to reveal her past secrets. This caused Ji Rong to feel terrified. If Qing Shi was an innocent kid, then his big brother was too terrifying. Obviously, if she didn't agree, he would kill her. One must know that this crazy spear demon was younger than Qing Shi by a year. At the age of 15, he destroyed the entire Bent Blade Union with a single spear. Why don't you guys vote for him? Chapter 61. Although she was afraid, Ji Rong hurriedly explained, Big brother Snow Eagle, you really misunderstood. That time it was my family servant who killed that little beggar behind my back. I only found out about it later. In front of me you don't need to explain. Dongbo Shuiying said coldly, I told you to get out of my brother's side, this is an order. He only looked at the facts. He didn't listen to other people's lies. Moreover, according to Dragon Mountain Manor's investigation, Ji Wuhai and Ji Rong's family were very good at disguising. Ji Rong wanted to say something but stopped. Her eyes were filled with tears. You only have 3 days. Dongbo Shuiying turned around and walked away. 3 days later, if you can't do it, I will help you. But my method will be more direct. When he was 8 years old, he started to crazily practice his spear every day. During this process, Dongbo Shuiying broke down and cried again and again, but he persevered. Under this kind of tempering, his willpower became incomparably terrifying. How strong would such a person's willpower be? How could a little girl like Ji Rong be able to sway him with just a few words? Even if it was Kong Yuyu, Dongbo Shuiying was only angry at her for deceiving his feelings of trust. Moreover, he was very decisive, directly cutting off this feeling of trust. The way Dongbo Shuiying handled things was very straightforward. Ruthless to himself, even more ruthless to his enemies. Yes. Ji Rong looked at Dongbo Shuiying's back as he left and could only lower her head. Step by step, she walked towards Qing Shi's residence. She was thinking, what should I do? Dongbo Shuiying loves his brother very much. Should I think of a way to make Qing Shi stand on my side and make Dongbo Shuiying fear me? Ji Rong pondered. No, this Dongbo Shuiying is an extremely decisive person. He won't be restrained by this little trick. I'm afraid he can easily hide it from his brother and secretly destroy our Ji family. What should I do? I haven't found out what wealth Dongbo Shuiying's parents left behind. I haven't made any contributions. Ji Rong thought as she walked. Relying on Qing Shi? But in terms of affection, Qing Shi and her brother were probably closer. Even if he stood on her side for a moment, he would still stand on her brother's side. Damn it, damn it. Ji Rong couldn't think of a way to continue staying by Qing Shi's side. Rong thought, Ji Rong Yuing. Do you dare to disobey? Rong Ji Rong. The Bent Blade Union had once been feared by all the nobles of Water Rights Town, but Dong Bo Shuiying had destroyed it at the age of 15. Compared to the past, Shuiying was much more frightening. Ji Qing Shi Ji. Sec. Ji Rong Ji. Ji Rong, you actually came to see me. I am very happy. Tiru Ji brother Jie Snow Wang family, Ji Feng of Ji, I too. Qing Shi walked out of the castle's main building and walked side by side with Ji Rong on a flagstone road inside the castle. It's not my brother's fault. That dead nobleman seemed to have a strong background. At that time I didn't intend to kill that young noble, but I couldn't precisely control that large-scale spell. Who would have thought that the young noble would be so unlucky as to be struck by a bolt of lightning? It's not your fault. Ji Rong comforted him. At that time if we hadn't fought back, you would have died and I would have been in a miserable state. I really don't dare to imagine what would have happened if I had been kidnapped. No one can hurt you. Qing Shi firmly held Ji Rong's hand. I promise. Ji Rong just smiled and didn't say anything. What's wrong? Are you in a bad mood? Qing Shi could sense his girlfriend's mood and asked, Is it because you killed that noble yesterday? Don't worry, my brother is taking care of everything. He will definitely take care of everything. Not this. Ji Rong said. Then which one is it? Qing Shi asked. Tell me. Maybe I can help you. Qing Shi, let's break up. Ji Rong suddenly said. Qing Shi was stunned. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on his head. He was completely confused. Are you kidding me? Qing Shi laughed. This kind of thing is not funny. It's true. Let's break up. Ji Rong looked at Qing Shi. Qing Shi looked at Ji Rong's eyes. He realized, this was not a joke, it was true. What? Qing Shi couldn't understand. Yesterday we were still fine and happy. Although we had a conflict with that noble, what does that have to do with our relationship? Why do you suddenly want to break up? I like someone else, can't I? Ji Rong said. What's the reason? Tell me. Qing Shi anxiously stared at Ji Rong. Ji Rong lowered her head. Silence. Tell me. Qing Shi was so anxious that he almost went crazy. Your brother is your most important family member, right? Ji Rong said. Qing Shi wrinkled his brows. He suddenly had an idea. Your brother investigated some things about me. Ji Rong said, he thinks that I'm not a good girl and that I'm not worthy of you. He already gave me an ultimatum to leave you. Qing Shi was stunned. Your brother opposed it? How can you go against his wishes? Ji Rong looked at him. Qing Shi clenched his teeth. Whoever I like, my brother can't stop me. Don't lie. Do you think I don't know the relationship between you and your brother? Whoever you like, you have to get your brother's permission and blessing. Ji Rong said. Qing Shi panicked. If his brother completely opposed this, what should he do? There must be some misunderstanding. Why would he stop me? You said that he investigated you and thought that you're not a good girl? What happened? Qing Shi asked. There must be some misunderstanding. Ji Rong sneered. That happened when I was 10 years old. At that time I was still very young. I was taking my servants to play in Water Rights Town, but a little beggar ran into us and even dirtied my beautiful clothes. At that time I was very unhappy. My clothes were dirty, so I took my servants home in a depressed mood. After I left, one of my servants beat the little beggar. It was said that the beggar was beaten to death. When I found out, I was also very sad. But there was nothing I could do. But your brother thought that I ordered the servant to do it. He thought that I was a bad person since I was 10 years old. Ji Rong's eyes were filled with tears. What could I do? Moreover, when I was 11 years old, I came to Snowrock Mountain to be apprenticed to Master by Yuanji. After living in Snowrock Mountain for so many years, don't you know what kind of person I am? But your brother thought that I'm not a good girl. He wanted me to leave you. Ji Rong said in a low voice, when your brother was young, he was the #1 expert in our Water Rights Town. Now he is even more unfathomable. I don't dare to offend your brother. My Ji family doesn't dare to offend your brother. So, we can only break up. Qing Shi anxiously said, how could it be like this? How could my brother do this? If Dongbo Shuiying opposed, the Ji family would definitely retreat. You stay here. I'll go find my brother. Qing Shi said, wait for me. I'll definitely convince my brother. It's useless. Ji Rong shook her head. You stay here and wait for me. Dongwu Qingshi turned around and left. He immediately rushed towards the training field. In the training field, Qingshi directly rushed in. In the training field, a black-clothed Dongwu Shuiying was practicing his spear arts. Snowflakes fluttered around the spear, making it look ethereal. It didn't have the same violent aura as before. Instead, it seemed to be one with the world. Brother. Qingshi couldn't wait any longer and directly shouted. Shua. The spear disappeared. Dongwu Shuiying stopped and put away his spear. He turned around and smiled at his brother. Oh, it's Qingshi. What's the matter? In front of his brother, Qingshi's aura wasn't as strong as before. He hesitated for a while before gritting his teeth and said, Brother, did you ask Ji Rong to leave me? Dongwu Shuiying was surprised. This Ji Rong didn't seem to give up. He gave her 3 days to break up with his brother. He didn't expect her to do it so decisively. Yes, it's me. Dongwu Shuiying nodded. Why did you do this? Qingshi suppressed his anger. He wanted to hear his brother's explanation. She's not suitable for you. Dongwu Shuiying said. Not suitable? Just because she caused the death of a little beggar when she was young? Qingshi said. Dongwu Shuiying frowned and said, because of a simple conflict, she ordered a servant to secretly torture a little beggar to death. How old was she at that time? With such a temperament, how could she be suitable for you? Haha, this is too funny. Brother, she was only 10 years old at that time. That was 6 years ago. How can you be so sure that your investigation is true? Qingshi said. The one who did it was the servant. Moreover, you said it yourself. It should be the one who secretly tortured the little beggar to death. How can you be so sure that it was Ji Rong who gave the order, and not the servant acting on his own? Naturally, there are other evidence. Dongwu Shuiying frowned. With a flip of his hand, a scroll appeared in Dongwu Shuiying's hand. He flipped through it and took out a piece of paper. This piece of paper was the final conclusion. Dragon Mountain Manor suspected that they were evil god worshippers. This kind of thing could not be revealed to his brother. His brother was currently in a very emotional state. If Ji Rong heard it, then Ji Clan would immediately be on guard. Look, this is the information that Dragon Mountain Manor investigated Ji Clan. Take a look. What do you think? Is she suitable to be your wife? Dongwu Shuiying passed the scroll to his brother. Dongwu Qingshi suppressed his anger and took the scroll. He carefully flipped through it. Many of the contents were said by Ji Rong. For example, she was kicked out of the clan by her big uncle. For example, she temporarily lived in her mother's clan. She was bullied and looked down upon when she was a child. But there were also many things that he did not know. For example, Ji Rong's father Ji Wuhai was the mastermind behind the destruction of her big uncle's clan and her mother's clan Yen clan. Even her big uncle's clan and many people from the Yen clan died miserably. All of this pointed to Ji Wuhai. Dongwu Qingshi was starting to hate this Ji Wuhai. I'm done. Qingshi closed the scroll. What do you think? Dongwu Shuiying asked. Not good. Dongwu Qingshi angrily said, the information is very detailed. But first of all, how can it be absolutely true? Second, even if it is true, it is Ji Rong's father, Ji Wuhai, who is guilty. What does this have to do with Ji Rong? When Ji Rong's family temporarily lived in the Yen clan, they were always bullied. At that time, her father drank to drown his sorrows and did not care about the family at all. Later, when he woke up, he went out to do business for a year and returned. After that, he sent his daughter to teach her. Ji Rong and her father spent very little time together. Moreover, Ji Rong is really pitiful. Before she was 10 years old, she lived a very pitiful life. When her father returned with a huge fortune, she lived the life of a noble lady for nearly a year before coming to teach her. Qingshi angrily said, she lived a luxurious life for almost a year. The rest of the time she was either bullied, or she lived the life of a mage under teacher's tutelage. She is a very pitiful person. How is she malicious? Dongwu Shuiying frowned. According to Dragon Mountain Manor's deduction, wanting to become rich? How could it be so easy? Dragon Mountain Manor believed that when Ji Wuhai's family was bullied by the Yen clan, their lives were too miserable. That was when they became evil god's followers. Moreover, it was very likely that they became fanatics and gained the trust of the higher-ups of the evil god division. Furthermore, Ji Wuhai indeed had the ability to do business. Thus, the evil god's faction began to help and support him. They first let him go out to do business and have a reason to become rich before returning. However, these were all deductions made by Dragon Mountain Manor's intelligence experts based on a few clues. There was not enough evidence. She has always been with me in the mage's building. I don't know what kind of person she is. Even if her father is an evil person, when the time comes, we can just ignore him. Don't tell me that our Dongbua clan is afraid of a merchant? Qingshi hastily said. Brother, I don't know her father, but Ji Rong is definitely innocent. She is the first girl I like, and I'm afraid she will be the last. Don't be so cruel, okay? Dongbua Shui Ying's face slightly changed. I'm afraid she will be the last. This Ji Rong has really captivated his brother. Dongbua Shui Ying solemnly said, Qingshi, the Dragon Mountain Manor's intelligence is very reliable. Those who dare to write it down must have enough confidence. Since she was young, she has always lived in the mage's building. How can I not know what kind of person she is? Qingshi angrily said. Mages are all very intelligent people. Even if she is a young girl, don't ever look down on her. Dongbua Shui Ying said. He had just been deceived by Kong Yuyu. I believe her. Qingshi said. Enough. Dongbua Shui Ying coldly said, the two of you must break up. However, I can give you 3 years. In these 3 years, the two of you must separate. I will ask Bai Yuanji to drive Ji Rong back home. In these 3 years, I will see the truth of the Ji clan. If Ji Rong is really a good girl, I will not stop the two of you from being together. However, if her true colors are exposed, you will understand my thoughts. Dongbua Shui Ying also felt that with Dragon Mountain Manor's strength, since they suspected Ji Wu Hai, 3 years was enough to find out the truth. Moreover, he did not want his brother to resist too much. If he completely cut off his brother's hope with his feelings for Ji Rong, he would probably go crazy. 3 years? Qingshi stared. 3 years? It's too long and you still want to drive her away? Brother, how can you be so heartless? To treat her like this? Moreover, you said that we must break up? This is between me and Ji Rong, how can we break up just because you say so? We must break up. Dongbua Shui Ying did not expect his brother to be unable to endure 3 years. He could not tolerate his brother being together with a demon god's follower. If she really was a demon god's follower, then he would be pushing his brother into the abyss. Who knew what a demon god's follower would do? At that time he would regret it. The two of you must break up. Dongbua Shui Ying said coldly. No. Qingshi was furious. No one can resist. With just a word from me, Bai Yuanji will drive Ji Rong out and Ji clan will have to move out of Water Rights Town. Dongbua Shui Ying said coldly, so even if you don't want to listen, you have to listen. This matter you cannot be presumptuous. Qingshi felt the blood rushing to his head. His eyes turned red and his heart beat extremely fast. His big brother indeed had the ability to forcefully destroy the relationship between him and Ji Rong. His strength was not enough to resist. His voice trembled as he looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. His eyes made Dongbua Shui Ying's heart tremble. His hoarse voice roared, Brother, you are my brother. Since I was young, I have always been proud of you. Although I can't remember my parents, I always thought that I had the best brother in the world. But I was wrong. I really did not expect you to be this kind of person. You really disappoint me. You really disappoint me. I never thought that my brother would be this kind of person. You are an egomaniac. You really disappoint me. The most important family member in his life, the family member that he was willing to use his life to protect, was saying these words to him. Dongbua Shui Ying felt his heart twitching. Is my little brother disappointed in me? I really did not expect you to be this kind of person. My brother is this kind of person. Qingshi's face was already full of tears. He turned around and dashed out. Zhongling was standing at the door. Apparently, Zhongling heard the quarrel between the two brothers and came over. Qingshi's face was full of tears as he dashed past Zhongling. Dongbua Shui Ying's heart was aching. His usually steady hands were trembling. The muscles in his palms were twitching uncontrollably. His heart really hurt. Really? Since I was young, I have always been proud of you. But I was wrong. I really did not expect you to be this kind of person. My brother is this kind of person. His little brother's voice resounded in his ears. Dongbua Shui Ying's breathing was getting erratic. At this moment, Zhongling walked over and asked, Snow Eagle? Help me look after Qingshi. Remember, you must not allow him to leave the castle for the next 3 days. If he insists on leaving and you guys can't stop him, inform me. I'll go and stop him. Dongbua Shui Ying said. Zhongling looked at Dongbua Shui Ying's body. In the past, when Dongbua Shui Ying stood there, he gave off the impression of a tall mountain or a spear. He was so steady, so terrifying. That was the aura of an expert. But at this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying's back seemed to be bent. That unshakable aura was gone, and he seemed to have become weak. Snow Eagle? Zhong Ling looked at Dongbo Shuiying's face. Dongbo Shuiying's face was slightly pale, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. I've heard everything just now. Don't be sad. Qing Shi has never experienced any setbacks. When he grows up, he will understand your intentions. Zhong Ling consoled. You've treated him like a treasure since young. For the sake of finding a good teacher for him, you risked your life to go to the mountain range of desolation. In the future he will understand how good you are to him. Alright, don't be sad. I'm fine. Look after Qing Shi. Dongbo Shuiying turned and left. On the roof of the castle, Dongbo Shuiying sat alone, drinking wine as he looked at the vast sky. His little brother was very sad. This was the first time his little brother was so sad. As for the hurtful words his little brother had said, Dongbo Shuiying was truly heartbroken. But now he was only worried about his little brother. He will be fine after a while, Dongbo Shuiying said softly. He wiped his eyes, which were slightly wet. I didn't expect that I would still cry after so many years. He continued to drink. The mountain breeze blew. Dongbo Shuiying didn't know what he was thinking about. He just sat there and drank his wine. Gradually the sky turned dark and night fell. During dinner, Dongbo Shuiying went for dinner. He thought that he would have the chance to see his little brother. But his little brother didn't come. After dinner he went to the study room alone and started reading. As night fell, the crescent moon hung high in the sky. Faint moonlight shone on the ground. High up in the sky, a black refiner flying ship had already arrived above Snow Rock Castle. Chapter 62. Inside the alchemy flying ship, one of the servants said respectfully, Master, we have arrived at Snow Rock Castle. Xiang Pangyun, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, opened his eyes. Wind Fiend and the other three also stood up. Big brother, we will head down now. Wind Fiend smiled. Emicham. Xiang Pangyun nodded slightly. Wind Fiend and the other three quickly came out of the cabin and onto the deck. Among them, the white-haired sorcerer held a purple magic staff and started casting some spells. Rays of light flew out from the magic staff and landed on Wind Fiend and the other two. Several buff spells were cast consecutively. Wind Fiend and the other three's auras were completely isolated. An invisible barrier formed around the three of them. Even the light rays around them were distorted. Back then, Dongbo Shuiying and the others had infiltrated the Lu clan's castle. However, they were discovered the moment they arrived. Comparatively speaking, they were clearly not as proficient as these assassins. This was their profession. Let's go. Wind Fiend spoke. So. The four of them leaped off the flying ship at the same time and started descending. As they descended, they were surrounded by the power of spells, causing their speed of descent to be slower. After a while, they quietly descended a few hundred meters and landed on an empty space beside the main building of the castle. This was because these assassins knew very well that the main building of a castle was usually heavily guarded. There might even be some spells and formations. If they descended directly, they would be easily discovered. As for the empty space, one could tell that there were no formations on the surface. Third brother will stay here. The three of us will sneak in. Wind Fiend instructed, be careful. The moment you encounter a warning formation, the two of you retreat immediately. I will complete the mission. Don't worry, second brother. The two Silver Moon Knights nodded. They were very familiar with this. So. The three of them rapidly approached the main building. Their bodies were surrounded by spells. Ordinary people would not be able to see them clearly even if they were beside them in the dark. During the day they would only be able to see blurry figures. Within the study room, Dongbo Shuiying was currently reading a book. However, his heart was not calm. He was just casually flipping through the pages. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly frowned. An expert who was one with the world. Even during normal times, his spirit force would naturally resonate with the outside world. Within a certain range, the slightest movement would be discovered. If one's spirit force intentionally merged into the world, they would be able to sense everything within a few miles. Even the metal refinement flying boat in the sky would be discovered. It was just that most people would not be able to unify their mental strength with the heavens and the earth at all times. This was because completely becoming one with the heavens and earth required the concentration of one's spirit power. Someone actually came. That noble's revenge came so quickly. A cold glint flashed across Dongbo Shuiying's eyes. Ever since his parents were taken away when he was young, no one had dared to invade the Snowrock Castle. That mysterious noble young master had just died and now someone was invading. Shuang did not believe that this had nothing to do with that noble young master's clan. Dongbu Shuang opened the door and walked out. Wind Devil quietly walked to the corridor of the main building of the castle. Suddenly, boom! A terrifying force enveloped hundreds of meters around the castle. Whether it was the Silver Moon Wizard waiting in the open space, the other two knights, or the Wind Demon, they all felt a chill run down their spines. All of them were completely suppressed by the power of the heavens and the earth. This feeling of being completely suppressed caused them to reveal a look of fear. The moment the Silver Moon Wizard was suppressed, they would not be able to use the power of the heavens and the earth. They would not even be able to cast a powerful spell. What the hell? That Dongbu Shuang is only 22 years old and he is already a legend ranker with the power of the heavens and the earth? The other two Silver Moon Knights were also frightened to the point that their legs went soft. Their strength was far weaker than a legend ranker and they were also suppressed by the power of the heavens and the earth. As long as Dongbu Shuang wanted to deal with them, the two of them would die in the blink of an eye. The two of them panicked and their legs went soft. Run, run. Let's hope that he does not come to deal with us. Instead he goes to deal with Wind Devil. Wind Devil's strength is strong enough to hold him off. Furthermore, Big Brother will be here soon. Once Big Brother arrives, we will be able to preserve our lives. The two Silver Moon Knights quickly retreated. The three of them were panicking. Although Wind Devil was not afraid, he was still shocked. One with the world? How many years has it been since a 22-year-old legend ranker appeared in the entire Tranquil Sun province? Such a monstrous thing actually happened. Wind Devil was completely stunned by the power of the heavens and the earth. To be able to become a legend ranker at the age of 22, let alone in the Tranquil Sun province, even in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire, it was a monstrous thing. In fact, the Bloodshed Tavern only had their suspicions. The Dragon Mountain Manor had more information, but they did not witness the battle. They also suspected that the traces of battle in the Liu family's castle might be due to some other reason. Therefore, they only believed that the possibility of Dongbu Shuang being a legend ranker was 50%. Even if Dongbu Shuang really had the power of a legend ranker, they were more inclined to believe that Dongbu Shuang had obtained a powerful refiner armor. They did not dare to believe that a 22-year-old legend ranker would appear in a remote place like Water Rights Town. Relying on one's own strength to reach legend ranker was too difficult. One with the world? Very difficult. Primordial bloodline awakening? It was also extremely difficult. Even if it was the Dragon Mountain Empire's royal family, even if it was the most powerful transcendent, it was still too difficult to cultivate a 22-year-old legend ranker. I have been cultivating for so many years, but I still haven't reached one with the world. Only after my body has been transformed and Big Brother has given me an alchemy treasure, did I have the power of a legend ranker. Wind Devil was shocked. But this Dongbu Shuang can actually rely on his own strength to reach one with the world? There were a lot of people who relied on external forces to barely reach legend ranker. For example, Dongbu Shuang's enemy, Mo Yang Qinbai, and Wind Devil, they were all like this. However, Wind Devil was very ruthless towards himself. His body had been transformed by a master alchemist, and he had an alchemy treasure. In addition, he had been tempered between life and death for a long time. His strength was much stronger than Mo Yang Qinbai. There was not much difference between him and a real legend ranker. Hoo-hoo, under the pressure of the world, the air distorted. Under the illumination of the fire crystal lamp, a black-clothed youth appeared in the corridor. Wind Devil looked at the person in front of him. Under the distortion of the air, the other person's face was somewhat blurred. However, looking at the other person's age and rough appearance, Wind Devil knew that the other person was Dongbu Shuang. Who asked you to come? The black-clothed youth walked towards him. Run. Wind Devil did not want to make a move, because he did not have the ability to kill a real legend ranker. Right now, as long as he could buy some time, his big brother would arrive. Seeing that the other party wanted to escape, the black-clothed youth faintly snorted. If you don't want to speak, then die. Shwa. A long spear appeared in the hands of the black-robed young man out of thin air. The long spear turned into a strange and astonishing arc. Under such an arc, even the shaft of the long spear appeared to curve. It could be seen that the power of the long spear was great and vigorous. So fast. Wind Devil was so scared that he quivered. He turned his head and waved the scimitar in his hands to block the attack. He did not have the confidence to block the attack, so he relied purely on his instinct to block the attack. Clang. The long spear's tip contained a frightening strength and rotational force. Wind Devil's hands were somewhat numb. He could not help but be forced to retreat. This caused Wind Devil to reveal a frightened expression. Yes. Although he had only achieved the state of one with the world for a short period of time, but during this time he had been absorbing the energy of the world to strengthen himself. His Do-Chi had been promoted to Silver Moon rank, and his physical strength and speed had increased by 50%. He also had the one with the world to suppress his opponent, and had also cultivated the second layer of the profound ice spear technique, Blood Rain. Therefore, under normal circumstances, his battle strength was comparable to the last time when he fought against Sir Divine Envoy, when his power bloodline was activated. With this kind of strength, even the extraordinary Divine Envoy was killed after using a forbidden technique. How could this Wind Devil withstand it? Too strong, how could it be? Wind Devil's scimitar hurriedly blocked the second spear. The first spear he had blocked it and was forced to retreat. The second spear he was lucky enough to block it, but his arms were completely numb. The movement of his hands holding the scimitar was also distorted. The third spear, puff. As fast as lightning, the long spear passed through the scimitar that panicked but was obviously slow to block. It instantly pierced through Wind Devil's throat and then retracted. It was like a light kiss. Aye. Wind Devil clutched his throat as if he wanted to stop the blood from flowing out. He wanted to preserve his life. He really did not expect that even if he met a legend ranker he would still be killed so quickly. Dongbo Shuiying looked at the masked assassin in front of him who was clutching his throat and slowly falling to the ground. To be able to barely block 2 spear attacks, it seems that he has the strength of a legend ranker. There are still 3 ants left. Dongbo Shuiying was enveloped by the world energy. The other 3 assassins, every move was under his observation. He could kill them at any time. Chapter 63. Speak, who sent you here? Shuiying's voice resounded in the ears of the 3 assassins. We don't know, we don't know. We accepted the Bloodshed Tavern's mission, we don't know who it is. The 3 assassins were terrified. Dongbo Shuiying frowned. Bloodshed Tavern's mission? That noble young master's family actually issued a bounty for him? Since that was the case, it was impossible to find the person who issued the mission. 3 rays of cold light flashed. Under the cover of the power of heaven and earth, the 3 assassins widened their eyes as a small hole appeared between their eyebrows. Since you've already killed your way to my house, you still want to escape? Dongbo Shuiying glanced at the 3 corpses. He had thrown out 3 shuttle-shaped darts. When he was in the county capital, he had bought a batch of high-quality short spears. Similarly, he had also bought a bunch of suitable darts. After all, it was not worth it to use short spears to deal with weaker opponents. Dongbo Shuiying had bought a huge box of these darts and placed them in his storage ring. On the alchemy flying ship in the night sky, Zhang Pangyun was looking down coldly. Buzz, suddenly the power of heaven and earth surged from the castle below. With Xiang Pangyun's amazing eyesight, he could clearly see a black-robed young man walking towards Wind Demon. Following which, a long spear appeared in his hand and he instantly attacked. 3 consecutive spears as fast as lightning. Wind Demon was already dead. Xiang Pangyun's pupils constricted. Following which, he grinned and his blood-red eyes emitted an unprecedented radiance. One with the heavens? 22 years old, one with the heavens? And he killed Wind Demon in a single move? Good, this is really good. I didn't expect to come across such a rare plaything when I came out to try my luck. 22 years old, one with the heavens, and his strength is so strong. He has sufficient time to slowly find his own path. I'm afraid he has an 80 to 90% chance of becoming a transcendent. If Dragon Mountain Manor confirmed Dongbo Shuiying's strength, I'm afraid those transcendent organizations would immediately come to invite such a monster. Or has he joined some extraordinary organization? Xiang Pangyun thought to himself. He had lived for a very long time and naturally came into contact with many secrets. This world had transcendence. The armies of mortals were meaningless to transcendence. The transcendents were the true rulers of this world. And the 6 great transcendent organizations were formed by transcendents. The Empire? It had long decayed. The 6 major transcendent organizations were the true ruling powers of this world in the dark, and they had existed for a very long time. The Terrene Shrine and the Bloodshed Tavern were 2 of the more special organizations out of the 6 great extraordinary humans. It's a pity that you won't have the chance to become a transcendent in the future. Xiang Pangyun's eyes were filled with excitement. Wait for me here. Xiang Pangyun ordered. Yes, master, the servants controlling the flying boat said respectfully. Oh. Xiang Pangyun jumped down. Although it took a long time to describe, Xiang Pangyun had only thought for a short while from the moment he saw Wind Demon die. On the empty ground within the castle, Dongbo Shuang had just killed Wind Demon. He looked at Wind Demon's chest suspiciously. There was a strange bronze heart-protecting mirror there. The patterns on the heart-protecting mirror made him feel that it was extraordinary. This bronze heart-protecting mirror seems to be the best alchemy treasure I've ever seen. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed as he raised his head to look at the sky. High up in the sky, a muscular man dressed in dark red robes with a face that looked like it was carved by a knife descended at high speed. His robes fluttered in the wind as a visible blood-red shockwave spread outwards with him as the center. The man was like a devil descending from the heavens. Dongbo Shuiying immediately recognized him. An expert of this level had long been drawn into a picture. Xiang Pangyun? Umph. With a single thought, Dongbo Shuiying activated the heaven and earth energy he controlled and clashed against the blood-red shockwave 100 meters up in the sky. Pung, the two surging forces collided head-on. Because Dongbo Shuiying's spirit force was one with heaven and earth, he could instantly sense the boundless killing intent contained within the blood-red shockwave at the instant of collision. Kill, kill, kill. Countless shouts of killing rang out in his heart. Dongbo Shuiying was slightly shocked by his opponent's methods. However, he was able to easily withstand the impact of the killing intent. How resolute was Dongbo Shuiying's will. Furthermore, after becoming one with heaven and earth, his spirit force had been nourished and had long become stronger. There was no way he could disregard this killing intent. However, ordinary Silver Moon experts or those weaker would be so frightened that their legs would turn soft and they would collapse to the ground when faced with such a materialized killing intent. He actually fused his killing intent with heaven and earth energy? Not only does his blood-red shockwave contain the impact of heaven and earth energy, it also contains the impact of his killing intent. Dongbo Shuiying was shocked in his heart. Everyone says that this Xiang Pangyun is a madman and an extremely terrifying assassin. Just the intensity of his killing intent is already unfathomable. Snow Eagle, what's wrong? What happened? Many people in the castle were alarmed. After all, when Dongbo Shuiying utilized heaven and earth energy, even the air would distort. Although this formless energy didn't harm his own people, it still alarmed many people. Also, when he fought against the Wind Devil, every time the spear and the curved blade clashed, the sound of collision would be extremely loud. Even the people in the castle were alarmed. There was no need to mention. The scene of Dongbo Shuiying's heaven and earth energy clashing with the blood-red shockwave was even more shocking. When the two forces of heaven and earth energy clashed, the sound produced was like thunder. Uncle Zong. Dongbo Shuiying called out. As a meteor knight, Zhong Ling was the fastest to arrive by Dongbo Shuiying's side. The bronze heart-protecting mirror on this fellow's corpse is a very unique refiner treasure. Dongbo Shuiying said, Uncle Zong, you can take a look. It should be useful to you. The more powerful a legend ranker was, the less useful those refiner treasures would be. Zhong Ling nodded his head. In the blink of an eye, he removed the bronze heart-protecting mirror. He continued to retrieve other storage treasures, weapons, armors, etc. But suddenly, bang! Xiang Pangyun, who had descended from a height of a few hundred meters, directly landed on the castle walls. Standing on the battlements of the castle walls, the blood-red shockwave surged outwards. Some of the soldiers on the castle walls were instantly pressured to the ground. Some of them even let out cries of fear. Some of the weaker soldiers were pressured to the point that their faces turned pale, and blood started to seep out of their mouths, noses, and ears. In fact, the heaven and earth energy only had a suppressive effect on Silver Moon Knights and Meteor Knights. But to some of the ordinary soldiers, it was enough to threaten their lives. In front of me, Xiang Pangyun, you still dare to resist? Xiang Pangyun looked down at Dongbo Shuiying. Dongbo Shuiying, you really have guts. Boom boom boom. The heaven and earth energy that Dongbo Shuiying controlled was like a huge invisible cover, covering the entire area. It continuously clashed with the blood-red shockwave surrounding Xiang Pangyun. Xiang Pangyun? Zhong Ling's expression changed. This terrifying demon? The legend ranker who had dominated the entire Azure River County for almost 100 years? Uncle Zhong, help me take care of Qingshi. Dongbo Shuiying immediately said. Under the control of the heaven and earth energy, he naturally saw Qingshi walking out of the room with a puzzled expression. All right. Zhongling did not care about searching the corpse anymore. This matter could be dealt with slowly. He immediately leapt up and flew to the third floor of the castle's main building, arriving beside Dongwu Qingshi. What happened? What's going on? Qingshi was a little confused. Previously he was hugging his quilt on the bed and had fallen asleep. His brother had never treated him like this for so many years. He hugged his quilt and cried, crying until he gradually fell asleep. The surging heaven and earth energy, the huge sounds of weapons clashing, and the collision of the heaven and earth energy of two legend rankers, as well as the miserable screams coming from outside, woke Dongwu Qingshi up and immediately came out. The moment he came out, he saw his brother Dongwu Shuiying standing downstairs. Beside him was a corpse, and further away there were 3 more corpses. At the same time, the surrounding scene was very strange. The air was distorted. The vast area on her brother's side was like an invisible barrier, while the crimson-robed demonic godlike man standing on the battlement of the city wall was emitting a blood-red wave of energy. The invisible barrier and the blood-red wave of energy collided. Just by looking at the blood-red chi wave with the naked eye, one could not help but feel fear. Qingshi had not experienced many setbacks, so his face could not help but turn pale. "Uncle Zong, what's going on?" Qingshi panicked. Zhongling came to his side. "It's Yang Pangyun." Zhongling said solemnly, "He's the most terrifying assassin in the entire Azure River County. He's even more terrifying than the Xi clan's ancestor, Xi Lianghong. Even some legend rankers can't even last a single move against him." What? Qingshi was stunned. How powerful was a legend ranker? In front of this Yang Pangyun he would be killed in a single move? One must know that the reason why the Xi clan could cover the sky in Azure River County was because of the Xi clan's ancestor. But Xiang Pangyun was even stronger than the Xi clan's ancestor? Dongwu Shuiying, the reason why I'm here is because of the Bloodshed Tavern's mission. It's to take the life of your brother, Dongwu Qingshi. Xiang Pangyun, who was standing on top of the city wall, had a strange expression on his face. His voice resounded through the air, "I have no interest in killing you. Just obediently step aside. After I kill your brother I'll turn around and leave. After all, the Bloodshed Tavern did not give me any bounty for killing you." Xiang Pangyun was doing this on purpose. This mission was actually accepted by Wind Demon. Even if Xiang Pangyun killed him, he would not be able to claim the bounty. He said this to tease Dongwu Shuiying, toying with Dongwu Shuiying's state of mind. If this could shake Dongwu Shuiying's determination, that would be even better. As a madman who publicly exposed his identity as a killer, the reason why he killed people was not for the bounty. Killing people was a form of enjoyment for a madman like him. Kill me? Bloodshed Tavern's mission? Qingshi was stunned. This terrifying scene was actually to kill him? Kill my brother? Dongwu Shuiying looked at Xiang Pangyun, who was standing on top of the city wall, and said coldly, "Unless I, Dongwu Shuiying, am dead, no one can hurt my brother. Not even you, Xiang Pangyun." Brother. Qingshi, who was standing by the railing of the main building, felt his heart ache. He looked at his brother's blurry figure under the distortion of the air. It was as if he could see the tall figure that had always been in front of him since he was young, the figure that was like a mountain that would always protect him. "For your brother you're willing to sacrifice your life. How touching. Since that's the case, then you can die." Xiang Pangyun's face suddenly turned sinister and he shouted, "Whoosh!" A blood-red figure suddenly rushed out from the battlements of the city wall, and a piercingly cold saber light streaked across the sky. Just by looking at the snow-white saber light that streaked across the sky for dozens of meters, everyone else trembled in fear. "Brother." Qingshi, who was standing beside Zhongling, was so nervous that he trembled. Chapter 64. Xiang Pangyun's expression turned malevolent as the snow-white blade light sliced through the air and arrived in front of him. "Is that all you've got?" Shui Ying's spear suddenly pierced upwards. The spearhead was like a rising dragon as it collided head-on with the snow-white saber light that was furiously hacking downwards. The collision resulted in an explosion that could be seen by the naked eye, spreading in all directions. However, under the protection of the world energy, it gradually weakened and disappeared. With this collision, both of Dongwu Shuiying's legs sunk down to his knees. However, with just a slight movement of his legs, the soil and gravel were all sent flying. As for Xiang Pangyun, he borrowed the force of the collision to land on the ground. "You have some strength. Xiang Pangyun grinned. However, a blood-red dart suddenly appeared in his left hand. Shoo. The dart streaked across the sky and flew towards Dongwu Qingshi, who was nervously watching from the top of the castle. Chi 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 chi. The dart was originally as fast as lightning, but Dongwu Shuiying was constantly maintaining the world energy to protect his little brother, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. Although there was a difference in the strength of legend rankers, Dongwu Shuiying and Xiang Pangyun could use the same world energy, and neither could suppress the other. If one was determined to protect an area, the other party would not be able to break through. Chi chi chi, the dart that left his hand was constantly obstructed by the world energy, causing its speed to decrease. Furthermore, the world energy was constantly pushing the dart from the side, causing the dart to change its trajectory. Dongwu Shuiying could clearly feel the trajectory of the dart bending. The dart hit the wall of the castle far away. It was at least 3 meters away from Dongwu Qingshi and Zhong Ling. Everyone says that the #1 expert of our Azure River County is you, Xiang Pangyun. Who would have thought that you would use my brother to influence me in a duel? Dongwu Shuiying sneered. I really looked down on you. Tsk. You are still so arrogant. I will let you die convinced. Xiang Pangyun attacked again at lightning speed. The saber was extremely fast. However, Dongwu Shuiying's marksmanship was also extremely fast. Clang clang clang. The two of them instantly turned into phantoms and exchanged blows. Their footwork was unpredictable, and Xiang Pangyun kept attacking and attacking. He kept moving forward, wanting to get closer to Dongwu Shuiying. Retreat, retreat, retreat. Dongwu Shuiying kept retreating. As the saying goes, an inch longer is an inch stronger. When using a long weapon like a spear, it was necessary to maintain a sufficient distance from the opponent as much as possible. Only then could the advantage of the spear be fully displayed. If they were to fight in close combat, it was obvious that Xiang Pangyun, who used a saber, would have a huge advantage. Xiang Pangyun kept advancing, wanting to get closer to Dongwu Shuiying. Dongwu Shuiying kept retreating to maintain the distance between them. So. How fast were the two of them? One of them kept advancing while the other kept retreating. After a few simple exchanges, they even exchanged blows on top of the castle walls. After which, they left the castle walls and went outside the castle walls. Quick. Let's follow them and watch. Qingshi was somewhat anxious. We can't go. Tong San, who was by the side, hurriedly said. Qingshi, we will stay here and watch. Zhong Ling said. The terrain here is high enough. We can barely see the battle from afar. Furthermore, if something goes wrong, we can enter the main building of the castle and escape through the tunnel. If we get too close to the battlefield at the level of your brother and Xiang Pangyun, I'm afraid we might accidentally injure and kill some Silver Moon rankers. Qingshi clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. At this moment he suddenly hated himself. Why didn't he train hard in the past? Now he couldn't help it all. Previously, his brother told him to train hard so that he could save his parents in the future. Although he gritted his teeth and worked hard for a short period of time, he soon lost his willpower. To be honest, parents represented a very special meaning. He also knew that parents were very important, but he really didn't have any impression of them. He simply couldn't persevere any longer and soon became lazy. But at this moment, he felt an unprecedented nervousness because this time, the one in danger was his brother. My brother is very powerful. He can definitely win. He definitely can. Qingshi stood in front of the railing and looked at the two figures moving at high speed outside the castle walls. He couldn't see the two figures clearly. He only felt that they were a series of afterimages. Bang, 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 bang. Sometimes it was a low clashing sound, sometimes it was a clear clashing sound. Both sides were using different strength, defending or attacking. Even the sound of weapons clashing was different. At the same time, both sides controlled the heaven and earth energy. One was a formless air shield, while the other was a blood-red air wave. Dongwu Shuiying retreated a few steps. His eyes were solemn. We're already out of your castle? The corners of Xiang Pangyun's mouth curled into a smile as he looked at Snowrock Castle a mile away. Tsk. You're really strong. You kept retreating while fighting with me. You actually lured me out of the castle. Are you afraid that our fight will hurt your subordinates? Your friends and relatives? Your subordinates are dead. Aren't you sad or angry at all? Dongwu Shuiying suddenly asked. He didn't feel any pain or anger from Xiang Pangyun regarding the death of Wind Demon and the other 3 assassins. Angry? What's there to be angry about? If you choose to be an assassin, you should be prepared to die. Furthermore, what does their death have to do with me? Xiang Pangyun said casually. If I didn't follow them, wouldn't the four of them still be dead? If I followed them, I could even avenge them. The four of them should be grateful to me, their big brother. Ah, avenge? You're quite confident. Dongbu Shuang sneered. From the short exchange just now, Dongbu Shuang judged that Xiang Pangyun only had a slight advantage in terms of strength. Even if this Xiang Pangyun had some powerful techniques, he hadn't even activated his power bloodline yet. According to the description of some experts on the Dragon Mountain leaderboard, Dongbu Shuang felt that he could barely make it into the leaderboard before attaining one with the heaven. It shouldn't be a problem for him to be ranked in the top 2 or 3,000. Now that he had attained one with the heaven, his body was absorbing the heaven and earth energy every day. His overall strength had increased. He had also mastered the Blood Rain Spear art. He should be able to enter the top 1,000. The gap between him and Si Lianghong and Xiang Pangyun was very small. Winning might be very difficult. But if the opponent wanted to kill him, the chances of that happening should be low. Of course, these were all deductions from external information. To determine life and death, it would still depend on the actual battle. The confidence you show in front of me is not ordinary. Xiang Pangyun sneered, that's right. Being able to attain one with the heaven at 22 years old. Furthermore, you're a spear grandmaster with power as one. TSK. You've attained power as one so quickly. Are you an innate one with the heaven or an innate power as one? What do you think? Dongbu Shuang asked. The realm of a grandmaster with power as one was very difficult to achieve. Just like that Lord God envoy, he had already attained one with the heaven long ago. However, he had never been able to attain power as one. One with the heaven was the tempering of one's spirit. Power as one was the pinnacle of one's skills. There were many legend rankers who had first grasped the realm of one with the heaven. Only after their spirit energy had grown stronger would they be able to sense their body more clearly. Only then would they be able to attain power as one. However, Dongbu Shuang was different. Dongbu Shuang did not walk on the path of tempering himself between life and death. What he walked on was purely an extremely solid foundation. He constantly perfected himself. With a terrifying solid foundation and astonishing perception, it allowed him to forcefully reach the realm of power as one. At the very least, his spear techniques had already reached a pinnacle. Although one's techniques were superb, it did not mean that one's combat experience was plentiful. Thus, when Dongbu Shuang entered the mountain range of desolation for the first time, his hands and feet were bound at the start. However, very quickly he no longer panicked. Nearing the Tao, the pinnacle of one's techniques. Beyond that, would be an even higher level. At that level, one's spear techniques, blade techniques, etc. would be even more extraordinary. Normally, only transcendence would be able to reach that level. If you can attain power as one before attaining power as one, then you will be even more monstrous. Xiang Pangyun's blood-red eyes flashed coldly. However, no matter how monstrous you are, it will be useless. Because tonight, you will die without a doubt. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiang Pangyun brought along a blood-red wave of qi and charged towards him once again. Dongbu Shuang also instantly shot out his spear. Like a venomous snake coming out of its hole, he shot out 3 consecutive spear strikes towards Xiang Pangyun's face, heart and throat. At this time, at the Great Mage's building located at the peak of Snowrock Mountain, a large group of people, including Great Mage Bai Yuanji and Kong Yuyu, had all come out. Actually, the commotion within Snowrock Castle had already caused the people in the Great Mage's building to be surprised. Following the battle between Dongbu Shuang and Xiang Pangyun, the commotion became even bigger. Everyone in the Great Mage's building turned to look at them. Chapter 65. Yu walked out of the Great Mage's building with a heart full of doubts. There was already a large group of people outside the Great Mage's building. 2 legend rankers are fighting. 2 legend rankers. The group of young mages were very excited. Kong Yu also looked into the distance. Under the illumination of the moonlight, there was a huge blood-colored chi wave colliding with the distorted colorless chi cover. The scene in the distance was somewhat distorted. The collision of the world energy had a range of 200 to 300 meters. Boom boom boom, it was as if thunder was roaring. This kind of power made Yu's heart tremble. As a mage, she was very knowledgeable. With one look, she could tell that this was a legend ranker using the world energy. Legend ranker? Yu Yu stared at the two fighting figures in disbelief. They are actually two legend rankers. Such existences should be standing at the top of the Azure River County. Why are they fighting at the top of Snowrock Mountain? Could it be that they are just passing by? Although the two terrifying rankers were extremely fast, they would stop abruptly during their fight. Some were even pushed back by the shockwave. Thus, Yi was able to clearly see their appearances. She did not know who Xiang Pangyun was. But on the other side there was a black-clothed youth holding a silver-gray spear. Snowflakes were floating around him. She was too familiar with this person. Dongbo Shuang. Yu Yu's eyes widened. He is a legend ranker? How is this possible? He is only 22 years old. When she was young, her father, Kong Hai, a shrewd businessman, had asked her to find a way to marry Dongbo Shuang. In fact, Yu had always been sullen. Because her father did not value her, he thought that a girl would eventually have to get married. In fact, she was even unwilling to hire a good mage as a teacher. It was because she wanted to get closer to Dongbo Shuang that she was sent to Bai Yuanji as a teacher. After becoming a mage, Yu was very hard-working. At the same time, her horizons were gradually broadened. She knew more and knew that the world was very big. What was Dongbo Shuang, who was a tyrant in the remote water rights town, compared to the whole world? But before a good opportunity appeared, she had to endure. After all, Dongbo Shuang was a good spare tire. Finally, the proud son of heaven of the Sea clan, Si Qin, had arrived. The Sea clan was a clan that could cover the sky with one hand in Azure River County. Even in the entire Tranquil Sun province, they had quite a high status. If he could enter such a family, then he might have the opportunity to reach a higher position in the future. In her opinion, Dongbo Shuang wasn't even worth mentioning in front of the Si family. Si Qin was a stairway for her to reach higher heights. When Dongbo Shuang discovered her true colors, she didn't care at all. He was just a martial arts fanatic from a small place. What was the big deal? Kong Yu looked at the two figures who were fighting like gods and demons. Some of the rocks in the distance collapsed and some of the rocks rolled down the mountain. One of the figures was someone that she was extremely familiar with in the past. All of you hurry up and hide. Great Mage Bai Yuanji's beard trembled as he roared, "Quick, that saber wielder is Xiang Pangyun." It was Xiang Pangyun. Why are you still standing here like idiots? Do you want to die? Once the shockwave reaches you, you will lose your life in an instant. Xiang Pangyun? The #1 expert of the Azure River County, Xiang Pangyun. The Xiang Pangyun who is even more powerful than the Sea clan's ancestor? These mage disciples all cried out in surprise. Their own teacher had already commented on some of the powerful figures of the Azure River County during his lectures. Among them he emphasized on Xiang Pangyun and Si Lianghong. These two were the two skies of the entire Azure River County. Any one of them could easily kill a legend ranker. Their strength was unimaginable. Hurry up and get inside. Bai Yuanji roared. The other disciples all walked towards the great mage's building. Bai Yuanji waved his hand. Rumble, a huge black statue beside the great mage's building suddenly moved. This was a refiner organism that looked like a centipede. The edges of its black, flat and wriggling body were covered with a flexible membrane. Brother Sichin, it's very dangerous now. The great mage's building isn't absolutely safe. It's better for us to sit on this black moon centipede and fly to the sky first. In the sky we won't have to worry about being affected. Bai Yuanji said. Thank you, Brother Bai. Sichin was quite handsome. At the same time he said, if it's possible, bring Yu Yu along. And Bai Yuanji glanced at Yu Yu and Ji Rong, then ordered, Yu Yu, Ji Rong, the two of you come as well. We'll go to Snowrock Castle later and bring Qing Shi along as well. Bai Yuanji had his own considerations. When he saw the earth-shattering battle between Xiang Pangyun and Dongbo Shuang, he was similarly stunned. Heavens, Dongbo Shuang was actually able to fight against the infamous Xiang Pangyun? Although he felt that the chances of Dongbo Shuang winning this battle were low, who knew if he could win? Or if he could save his life? Such a strong person he must be on good terms with. From his point of view, Yu Yu and Dongbo Shuang were very close. Ji Rong and Qing Shi were even closer. It would be better to bring these two girls along. Yes, teacher. Yu Yu and Ji Rong obediently complied. Bai Yuanji's other direct disciple had already left his tutelage. Under Bai Yuanji's control, the Black Moon Centipede instantly flew up into the sky. Bai Yuanji, Sichin, Yu Yu and Ji Rong were sitting on it. The Black Moon Centipede flew up to a height of a few hundred meters and simultaneously flew towards Snowrock Castle. Xiang Pangyun actually appeared here. Zichen looked down at the battle between the two experts and was still trembling. That Dongbu Shuiying is actually fighting on par with him. How is this possible? This Xiang Pangyun and my family's ancestor are on the same level. According to what I know, when Xiang Pangyun was an assassin, he had killed a few legend rankers. Normally he would kill them in one move. Why would he fight for such a long time? Brother Zichen, your experience is still too little. Bai Yuanji commented, look at the commotion caused by the battle between the two of them. Look at the scene of the surrounding rocks collapsing. According to my calculations, the shockwave produced by their battle has already far exceeded that of a normal legend ranker. Zichen nodded slightly. Xiang Pangyun could dominate Azure River County for so long. He definitely has some powerful methods. Bai Yuanji said, in this battle, Dongbu Shuiying is in danger. Of course, to be able to fight with Xiang Pangyun to this extent, he is already very amazing. He is only 22 years old. This is really unimaginable and inconceivable. If we give him another 5 or 6 years, I'm afraid that his strength will surpass Xiang Pangyun and Si Lianghong, becoming the strongest in our Azure River County. Zichen did not want to believe it, but the truth was right in front of him. He is indeed amazing. Zichen praised, truly amazing. To be so powerful at 22 years old, even in our Dragon Mountain Empire, he might even have a chance to become a transcendent. The two of them were amazed. Yu and Ji Rong were shocked. Ji Rong's face turned pale. She knew that her thoughts were wrong. In this Snowrock Castle, all wealth was just an illusion. The most terrifying and powerful person was Dongbu Shuiying. Yu was also shocked. The one fighting with Dongbu Shuiying was actually Xiang Pangyun? Yu was stunned. Xiang Pangyun? The strongest in Azure River County? Dongbu Shuiying could fight with him to this extent? He was only 22 years old. In the future he might even become a transcendent. Yu felt her heart was empty. She was anxious and powerless. A chance to reach the heavens in a single bound had been right in front of her, but she had missed it. Why couldn't she endure it? Wouldn't she have been able to see this battle if she had waited for a while longer? Why did she decide to abandon him at that time? Why did she say those words to her brother? She finally understood why Dongbu Shuiying could hear her conversation. As a legend ranker who was one with the world, how could she hide her actions? Phew. Yu slowly exhaled a breath of air, feeling a sense of loss. If she had followed Dongbu Shuiying wholeheartedly, she might have been able to climb to the top of the Dragon Mountain Empire. That was a level that she could not even imagine. She suddenly realized. She might have missed the most important opportunity in her life. It was too difficult to encounter such an opportunity again in this lifetime. Not good, Xiang Pangyun is going all out. Bai Yuanji suddenly exclaimed. Peng peng peng. The intensity of the battle below suddenly rose to another level. Whether it was the Black Moon centipede in the sky or the people in Snowrock Castle, everyone's heart was in their throats. Everyone could see the intensity of the battle increase. Dongbu Shuiying was bombarded into the mountain rocks. The mountain trembled and a huge crack appeared. Dongbu Shuiying hurriedly dodged. A biting cold blade descended from the sky. Ping. Dongbu Shuiying staggered backwards from the impact. Ah. Dongbu Shuiying, I was just playing with you just now. A plaything like you, I'm afraid it's hard for me to meet even once or twice in my life. But now I'm done playing. It's time for you to die. Xiang Pangyun's laughter resounded through the sky. His strength and speed had all increased by a huge amount, completely suppressing Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying tried his best to use his spear to block, but he was beaten into a sorry state. Rumble, a huge cliff broke apart and rolled down the mountain. Fighting with an expert like you, I've benefited a lot. I wanted to continue fighting for a while longer. It's a pity that you don't want to play anymore. Dongbu Shuiying tumbled backwards and landed on a huge rock. There was no trace of panic in his eyes, only excitement. Then let's fight to the death. A faint blood-red aura appeared on the surface of Dongbu Shuiying's body, and his life force suddenly increased. Power bloodline activate. Take this. Boom. A frightening shadow of a spear, carrying with it a might that could sweep through the heavens and earth, swept over a distance of over 100 meters and suddenly lashed out. Xiang Pangyun fiercely slashed out with his saber. Accompanied by a loud boom, Xiang Pangyun's eyes widened in shock, and he could not help but take 6 steps back. Each step caused the ground on the mountain peak to tremble, and then his body crashed into a large tree behind him. Hong, the tree directly exploded. Xiang Pangyun could not believe that he was actually at a disadvantage. What? In the night sky, Great Wizard Bai Yuanji and the rest who were on the Black Moon Centipede widened their eyes in disbelief. Great! Qing Shi, Zhong Ling, Tong San and the rest who were watching nervously from the Snowrock Castle all became excited. Chapter 66. Hu. When the spear collided with Xiang Pangyun's saber, Dongbua Shuiying exerted strength in both his arms, causing the spear to twist, forming a shocking arc. It was as if a flood dragon had emerged from the water and continued to stab towards Xiang Pangyun. Dang! Xiang Pangyun did not dare to face the spear head-on. He held the saber with both hands and defended while retreating. How did his strength increase so much in such a short period of time? This increase in strength is simply too much. Xiang Pangyun did not dare to believe it. Usually, the more powerful Do-Chi techniques have some desperate methods, allowing the user to unleash more Do-Chi in an instant, increasing the power. But normally, the increase in strength would not be so exaggerated. His strength had doubled. This was simply too shocking. It was like two ordinary soldiers. One had the strength of 50 Jin, the other 200 Jin. One could easily beat the other. And when one's strength increased, one had the strength of 50,000 Jin, the other had the strength of 100,000 Jin. Actually, the difference in strength was even more obvious during combat because one side had the strength of 50,000 Jin more than the other. In terms of techniques, the weaker side would lose his life in 2 or 3 moves. Die. Dongbua Shuiying advanced rapidly, his spear was like a dragon, attacking continuously. Pooh! In an instant, the spear tore through the air and stabbed towards Xiang Pangyun's face. Xiang Pangyun frantically dodged, using his saber to block. Block! The stab immediately turned into a collapsing force, the spearhead directly causing Xiang Pangyun to fly up and crash into a nearby mountain rock. The mountain rock immediately cracked and turned into countless rocks. Die, die, die. Each of Dongbua Shuiying's spear was faster than the previous, each strike aimed to take a life. After gaining the upper hand in strength, Dongbua Shuiying's continuous attacks brought about a suffocating sense of threat, as though he could lose his life at any moment. On the other side, the Black Moon Centipede rapidly landed on Snowrock Castle. Bai Yuanji said, "Brother Zhong Ling, Brother Tong and Qing Shi, quickly come up. We'll fly high up in the sky. That way Sir Lord can fight Xiang Pangyun with a peace of mind. If you guys stay here, Zhang Pangyun might not be able to win and kill you guys to threaten the Lord." "Thank you, Great Mage," Zhong Ling said. At the same time he said, "Tong San, Qing Shi, let's hurry up." The Black Moon Centipede was a relatively large alchemy organism. Its body was rather long and it could still support 7 people on its back. If they squeezed a little, even 10 people would be able to sit on it. Zhong Ling, Tong San and Qing Shi quickly went up and sat down. Oh. The Black Moon Centipede quickly slithered towards the sky. "Qing Shi," Ji Rong whispered. Qing Shi, who was on Ji Rong's back, glanced at her. His mood at this moment was completely different from how it was during the day. He had always been carefree. Because of his girlfriend and his brother's overbearing behavior, he willfully said some words that hurt his brother's heart. But now that she had seen that battle, especially when she saw that her brother was in danger and could lose his life at any moment. Moreover, this battle was because of the trouble he caused. This made him no longer have any temper towards his brother. There was only nervousness and worry. At the same time, after losing some of his anger towards his brother, he could naturally stand on a more impartial point of view and recall what he had said to his brother during the day. At that time I thought that it was only one side of the story and that most of it was just conjecture. But in reality, Ji Rong's words were also one side of the story. In comparison, brother's words were backed by Dragon Mountain Manor's intelligence. Dragon Mountain Manor monitors the world, and their intelligence is more trustworthy. Qing Shi thought to himself. Young people in love would always be hot-headed, especially when it was their first love. He was also 16 years old, the age where it was easiest for him to lose his hair. But in the face of his brother's life, he calmed down. Although he was simple, he was not stupid. On the contrary, he was very smart. If Dragon Mountain Manor's intelligence is completely correct, Ji Rong's father and mother are extremely hypocritical and vicious people. Ji Rong is also very vicious. This kind of family, are all like this? Qing Shi felt a chill run down his spine. Not good. Just as the Black Moon Centipede flew into the sky, before Qing Shi and Ji Rong could speak, Great Master Bai Yuanji's expression changed. Qing Shi, Zhong Ling and Tong San all looked down. The situation had indeed changed again. Originally, Xiang Pangyun, who was wearing a dark red robe, had a layer of blood-red flowing light on the surface of his body, making his whole body look like a blood-red figure. That blood-red flowing light was his protective Do Qi. But now, the layer of Do Qi had completely disappeared, and at the same time, his aura had clearly become stronger. Even though they were high up in the sky, they could not help but feel fear. I have not used my full strength for 30 years. Even that old fellow Si Lianghong was not willing to fight a real battle with me. Dongbo Shuang, you forced me to use my full strength. Even if I die, you should be satisfied. Xiang Pangyun's ruthless aura was monstrous. In the past, his faint blood-red eyes had now become completely blood-red. The Do Qi within his body was rapidly being consumed. Even his protective Do Qi had been withdrawn into his body to maintain this consumption. The consumption rate had skyrocketed. Naturally, his strength had also skyrocketed. A true top-notch Do Qi technique would usually have a desperate move. In the end, Dongbo Shuang had only learned a very weak middle-grade Do Qi technique, 3-stage flame technique. He did not have such a desperate move. In fact, even if he did, it would be useless. With just a silver moon-ranked Do Qi, it would be useless against him. After all, Dongbo Shuaying's body was much stronger than Do Qi. Boom. Both sides clashed. Dongbo Shuaying was bombarded again and again as he retreated and dodged again and again. Not good. Dongbo Shuaying's expression changed. Is this Xiang Pangyun's true strength? My current strength is still far from the top 500 rankers of the Dragon Mountain Roll. He had already activated his power bloodline and was going all out. Hua! A white ray of light flashed past. Dongbo Shuang dodged at lightning speed. When the tip of his spear clashed with the white ray of light, the white ray of light changed its direction slightly and swept across the surroundings. The surrounding rocks and trees were all neatly sliced apart. Such a fast blade. Dongbo Shuang dodged with all his might. Xiang Pangyun had already reached power as one. His weapon was not any weaker than Dongbo Shuaying's. His blade technique was also extremely powerful, not any weaker than the Black Ice Spear technique. Furthermore, his experience was much richer than Dongbo Shuaying's. After gaining the upper hand, Dongbo Shuaying immediately felt a sense of crisis. Every time he blocked, he felt that it was very strenuous. In the sky, Qing Shi, Zhong Ling, Bai Yuanji and the others who were on the Black Moon Centipede became nervous. Yu Yu and Ji Rong also had complicated feelings as they looked down anxiously. Is he going to die? Although Ji Rong was nervous, she was also looking forward to it. Dongbo Shuaying. Yu was in a dilemma. If Dongbo Shuaying died in battle, it would be a wise decision for her to give up on Dongbo Shuaying. But on the other hand, she did not have much resentment towards Dongbo Shuaying. They had been together for a long time. At the very least, she was very familiar with him. If he died in battle, she would feel bad. Brother? Qing Shi was extremely nervous. Zhong Ling and Tong San were the same. The three of them were the most nervous ones. Dongbo Shuaying was their closest kin. Zhong Ling and Tong San had watched Dongbo Shuaying grow up. They treated him like their own child. How could they not be nervous and worried? But the three of them had no other choice but to watch. So. Dongbo Shuaying moved like lightning. After he unleashed his power, his speed was extremely fast. His spear technique turned into a mirage as he blocked every attack. He had pushed himself to the limit. Xiang Pangyun's speed was even faster. His blade technique was even more ferocious. The peak of Snowrock Mountain was in a mess. Some of the trees and rocks had been smashed into pieces. We can't go on like this. Dongbo Shuaying's forehead was full of sweat. It's too tiring. If we continue to fight like this, we might lose our lives. Run. While Dongbo Shuaying was fighting, he had been paying attention to his brother. When Great Mage Bai Yuanji brought his brother, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong to the sky on the Black Moon Centipede, Dongbo Shuaying was no longer worried. What he needed to do now was to protect his own life. So, Dongbo Shuaying clashed with his weapon again. In an instant, he used the force to run 200 to 300 meters away. He had escaped. Escape? Do you think you can escape? Xiang Pangyun laughed sinisterly. In a flash, he chased after Dongbo Shuaying. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.